Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. Tonight, we're going to get to see something I've been waiting to see for years and years and years. And that is because I have a particular dislike for wackadoo fake scientists. Even if they're real scientists, if they're a wackadoo, I don't really consider them a real scientist. And recently, Jesse Michels, who you may know, has promoted multiple hoaxes, multiple proven UFO and alien hoaxes. Recently has decided to hold a discussion of sort with Eric Weinstein, formerly of Theo Capital. Isn't that funny? Oh, Jesse Michels is also formerly of Theo Capital. Yeah, and Peter Thiel is running around, as a billionaire, doing lectures about Satan because he's just a billionaire that happens to be interested in Satan and the Antichrist and the end of the world, right? Both very controversial figures, I would say, Weinstein, but more Davis. And to be very honest with you, I don't follow Weinstein because, I really just disagree with a lot of what he says when I do hear clips from him or hear him on Rogan or whatever. He is an intellectual and supposed thought leader on many things. But the one credit I will give him is that he sort of got sucked into the UFO land, but instead of just swallowing every story fed to him, he began to get very skeptical because people kept doing to him what they do to everybody in UFO land, and that is what I call the Lucy and the football. Who, by the way, I stole that from Joe Rogan, who once described being interested in UFOs is that this is all just Lucy and the football. Disclosure's coming. Disclosure's coming. Oh, they pulled the football away. Disclosure didn't come. So Weinstein has gotten extremely critical of people making UFO claims, citing lack of evidence and basically the Lucy and the football. They once promised him that they were going to show him some stuff. The good stuff, the goodies, but then they never did. And there was this whole back and forth where other wackadoos that happen to be scientists, like Eric Davis, were telling him that he was working on the UFO issue. And he's like, wait a minute, don't you have like hundreds of physicists working on it? No, just me and you. So there's this whole joking kind of situation here. And I don't like Jesse Michels either because he's a hoax promoting scumbag who doesn't do 5 minutes of research. And that's very clear. We perfectly illustrated that Jesse Michels doesn't do 5 minutes of research before running to sell a UFO story because he did a whole show. And maybe Eric Weinstein should, and by the way, I don't know if it's Weinstein, I apologize. Whatever way he prefers me to, somebody's free to correct me. I think it's Weinstein. Or Weinstein. I think it's Weinstein. Okay. I'll just call him Eric 1 and then I'll call the other one Eric Davis for purposes of tonight's broadcast. Don't want to continually mispronounce somebody's name. Ramstein. Yes. Steen. I believe it's Steen too. You're probably right. Okay. Thank you for correcting me. So I have some comments to put on the record before we begin tonight's broadcast where we're going to go through this video. And I've done something that I stopped doing for a long time. I actually watched this whole thing and made notes because I found this whole situation to be very interesting. And if you don't pay attention to this video of him talking to Eric Davis very carefully, you'll miss some things. Like basically, Eric Davis is a total nut job wackadoo during this because he says, well, I've talked to the people that are firsthand witnesses to the program, the legacy program, crash retrieval program, where they're working on those alien spaceships. And it's so classified, they're not allowed to even acknowledge the existence of the program, and I'm paraphrasing, or they're not allowed to talk about the program. But somehow Eric Davis, they're allowed to tell Eric Davis about it. And then he's allowed to go on YouTube and tell everybody about these super secret programs. And I'm just here to tell you, I've known several people in my lifetime, including Stanton Friedman, who verifiably worked on top secret government projects. In fact, I was just reminded of a funny story that Stanton Friedman told me about. Dark Journalist just talked about this on his show. if you're in a very sensitive secret program, or you have access to very sensitive secret information, you're very closely monitored. And you're not allowed to just go find things out, government secrets out, and then go on YouTube or make a documentary talking about them. In fact, many of the people that are involved in verifiably involved in very secret programs. Stan Freeman, by the way, worked on nuclear rockets, and this was all top secret for a time. Stan Freeman was once driving through, I believe it was Michigan, and he was carrying with him some top secret materials because he was going to be attending a meeting in Michigan and do, I think he told me something like he had to brief some senior government officials on the progress of the secret project he was working on. So he's traveling through Michigan with some top secret materials in his possession. He gets in a car accident, a bad one, I believe. They called the police before the local police even got to the accident scene. I don't know if you want to call them men in black. Federal government employees showed up, took the secret materials off of Mr. Freeman's possession, and just left him there. Like, good luck with getting to the meeting. We'll transport these sensitive materials, right? I did forget the goal. Let me go. So, but my point is that, people that work on secret projects, real secret projects, are very closely monitored. If they're having meetings with total wackadoos like Eric Davis, who's a complete and total nut job, then the government would know about it and they would stop that because it's a security risk. But we're supposed to believe that Eric Davis is talking to all of these people working on the most secret projects ever, and we always hear that stupid shit that the aliens and UFOs is the secrecy is more than the nuclear secrets. That came from a crackpot, ridiculous wackadoo from Canada. That's not a real thing, but we hear that repeated all the time. Oh, it's more secret than atomic secrets. No, it's not. No, it's not. That's just a UFO mythology. But here we go. My point is that if we listen to Eric Davis, he dances around. Oh, I have NDAs. I can't talk about that. And of course, he's the person that produced these Wilson Davis documents that have been called a work of fiction by Admiral Thomas Wilson. Oh, look at that perfect harmony with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Gifted Truth Seekers membership, starting our show off right. Thank you, Perfect Harmony, for your kindness, generosity, and big support. And this, my friends, is why I say you got to smash that subscribe button. 5 people just want a free channel membership here, and you could win a free channel membership too. But in order to be eligible, when a kind and generous person like Perfect Harmony gifts these memberships, you have to be a subscriber and be in the live chat. And then YouTube somehow randomly distributes them to people in the live chat who are subscribers, but not yet YouTube channel members. So smash that subscribe button. It's a big, huge boost to the channel. Stay up to date. Hit the notification bell. You'll always know when we're doing a live broadcast here. And thank you so much, Perfect Harmony, for your continued kindness, generosity, and support. God bless you and all of the people gifting these free memberships. Very, very kind and generous of you. We have the best audience ever. Everybody's thanking Perfect Harmony. I have kicks, they're saying. Imagine that. I have kicks. Imagine that. If this is pennies, for those unaware, a kick is 1 cent. And I don't know what I did to the kick viewers. They started throwing pennies at me. 1 second. We'll take a look at the kicks as well. We thank you for your kindness. A rage quit. Praise the cash. 500 kicks. That's not a penny. Censored Crabs has started off the kick support tonight. Very, very kind and generous of you, Censored Crabs. Thank you for not being one of the people on kick throwing pennies at me like I'm some skanky ghetto stripper throwing pennies and change at me. But Censored Crabs has at least thrown the $5 down, which is one for the goal. We thank you for your kindness. Seventh Nightman also became a follower on Kick. If you become a follower on our Kick channel during the live broadcast, I give you a big shout out and thank you. So also big shout out and thank you to MDD is a bitch who just followed our channel. recently, and that's all the activity I have to report on Kick. So I'm going to put some things on the record before we begin the video for tonight. And listen, I really have to contain myself when it comes to Eric Davis because I really don't like this guy. I think he's a scumbag. He's a bullshit artist and a scumbag. And all he does is repeat stories that people tell him, and we're all supposed to just be okay, you know. Uh, it's basically the trust me, bro, right? So let's talk about. Well, you know, it wouldn't be fair if I didn't talk about Eric Weinstein first. So Eric Weinstein is a mathematician, an academic, economist, and intellectual provocateur. That's my big word for today. Eric Ross Weinstein, born on October 26, 1965, is an American polymath known for his contributions to mathematics, economics, and public discourse. As a mathematician, economist, investor, and podcast host, he has carved out a unique niche in the intersection of science, technology, and culture. Perhaps best recognized from his Rogan appearances and as the host of his own podcast, where he explores complex ideas and critiques institutional structures. Weinstein's career spans academia, finance, and media, making him a prominent figure in discussions on innovation, AI, and societal disruption. He was born into a Jewish family, imagine that with a name like Weinstein, and grew up with a strong emphasis on intellectual pursuits. He is the older brother of Brett Weinstein, also a famous media personality, a biologist and fellow public intellectual, known for his work on evolutionary biology and free speech advocacy. So Eric Weinstein pursued higher education at elite institutions. He earned a PhD in mathematical physics from Harvard University. His dissertation was titled Extension of Self-Dual Yang-Mills Equations Across the Eighth Dimension. And his thesis actually demonstrated that self-dual Yang-Mills equations could be generalized beyond 4 dimensions. And if you're going to ask me what a Yang-Mills equation is, I didn't get that far in math in college, so I apologize. It's a mathematical construct. I know that much. Sorry. Prior to Harvard, he held research positions at MIT, the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and later Oxford University as a visiting research fellow in the Mathematical Institute. During his professional career, his journey blended academia with high-stakes finance. He served as a managing director of Thiel Capital, the investment firm founded by billionaire Peter Thiel from around 2013 until approximately 2022. In that role, he focused on mitigating financial risks and incentivizing creative advancement in the hard scientists. Earlier, he was a co-founder and principal of the Neutron Group in Manhattan. But beyond finance, Weinstein is a frequent public speaker on topics ranging from AI to mathematics, immigration, and yes, even UFOs. He has published works, including a paper on migration for the benefit of all in the International Labor Review. He's also involved with the Galileo Project at Harvard University, where he helps define and conduct research on. But everybody knows how I feel about the Galileo Project. It's a money grab from Avi Loeb, who's a scumbag, who keeps selling a book about Oumuamua being an interstellar spacecraft, even though that theory has been completely destroyed by the vast majority of scientists on Earth. So he is renowned for his ambitious theoretical work in physics. And he developed geometric unity, a proposed unified theory of physics that aims to reconcile quantum mechanics and general relativity, a long-standing challenge in physics that's often called the theory of everything. So He's had appearances on podcasts like the Joe Rogan Experience that have amplified his views, where he warns of impending disruptions from AI and technological change, urging adaptability and continuous learning. Beyond that, what I know about him is that he got sucked into UFO land. I don't know if people try to sort of recruit him. Seems interesting that there's so many people connected closely to Peter Thiel that are also UFO guys, like Jesse Michels, like Eric Weinstein. But really, I thought that this whole situation with Weinstein and Eric Davis speaking together was so interesting they because they are so different. Eric Davis is a true believing nutbag, if you ask me. We want to take a moment to recognize some kind and generous people. Troll saying, "How's your anus doing?" Yes, I have the right shirt on today. Look, we're going to be talking about aliens. We're going to eventually talk about alien probes and anal probes. So I have a shirt on that says, "Ask me about my butthole," which was sent to me by a viewer. Thanks to them for their kindness as well. It's always great to get free wardrobe for the show. I've got a lot of shirts sent to me by people in the audience. Thank you, Troll, for your long-standing support of the show, Truth Seekers. And perfect harmony with one for the goal. Eric Davis is a loon that believes in dino beavers. Yes, so let me put some comments on the record about Eric Davis. And then, my friends, we will begin our journey into this recent video. I've gotten a great deal of people that wanted to hear my thoughts on this discussion between the two of them. And generally, I'm glad it happened because I've been waiting for decades for somebody to hold Eric Davis's feet to the fire about the stupid shit that he says. Eric Davis is a loon. He is a wackadoo. He believes in things like dino beavers. He believes in poltergeists, that poltergeists followed him home. He also believes he was spiritually possessed by a spirit or demon that spoke through him while he was at Skinwalker Ranch. He also believes that people can bend metal with their minds and open stargates and wormholes and portals with telepathic powers. In other words, he's a complete and total fucking nutbag. And, but UFO people are predators. So they go, "Is this guy a real physicist? Yeah. And he's saying this crazy shit? Yeah. Get him on the show. We can make money off of this loon." And that's what happens. Same for him getting a document, repeat long debunked stories and ridiculousness. In this very podcast, he repeats a long debunked story that Jimmy Carter was given a briefing and he cried after the briefing because the implications were so staggering to him. That was debunked. That story was debunked by I believe it was a chief of staff or family member of Jimmy Carter who don't like people using their father as a prop in a fake UFO or alien story. So somebody came out and corrected the record on that. Never happened. But here we have loon Eric Davis still repeating it. So Dr. Eric Davis, I have been scrutinizing him for decades of unsubstantiated UFO claims. Dr. Eric W. Davis, an astrophysicist and former defense contractor, has long been a prominent voice in discussions about unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UFOs, with credentials from organizations like the Aerospace Corporation and involvement in programs like OSAP, which wasted $22 million of taxpayer money studying things like werewolves and shapeshifters and bulletproof wolves and portals and poltergeists and ghosts and dino beavers and, yes, UFOs at Skinwalker Ranch. Our government wasted $22 million. And Davis was one of the wackadoos who made money from that. So congratulations, Eric Davis. You and your friends successfully scammed the American taxpayers out of $22 million. And all we got out of that was fake stories about bulletproof werewolves, dog men, and other complete horseshit. Davis has posited theories on advanced propulsion, wormholes, and alleged extraterrestrial encounters. However, his claims, which span decades, have drawn significant criticism for lacking any evidence whatsoever, relying instead on anecdotal reports. Anecdotal, that's my other big word for the day. It just means all he has is stories. He claims that he has access to classified information that's inaccessible to the public, but somehow he's able to talk about that classified information on public YouTube channels and podcasts. And of course, he is one of the people that distributes completely and totally unverifiable documents, like the Wilson Davis notes, which Admiral Wilson, the main subject of those notes, called a quote work of fiction. Skeptics argue that Davis's claims, while intriguing, failed to meet any scientific standards whatsoever, perpetuating a cycle of speculation without proof. In a field rife with disinformation and hoaxes, his contributions highlight the tension between extraordinary claims and the demand for verifiable proof. Of course, the Wilson Davis memo is perhaps what he's most famous for. It's a document shrouded in doubt, and it's central to Davis's notoriety. The memo, an alleged 2002 document where he took notes, which allegedly summarizes a meeting between Davis and retired Navy Admiral Thomas R. Wilson. The memo claims Wilson disclosed a secretive black program, reverse engineering crashed UFOs hidden from oversight through corporate facades. It surfaced in 2016 among astronaut Edgar Mitchell's papers and entered congressional records in 2022, but its authenticity remains completely unproven. Critics point out glaring issues. Admiral Wilson has categorically denied the meeting and the memo's content, labeling it as a hoax and a, quote, work of fiction. National security experts and researchers echo this, noting the absence of corroborating evidence such as records of Las Vegas encounter or independent witnesses. Davis himself has danced around confirming authorship, only alluding to similar ideas in interviews, which fuels suspicion but proves no substantiation. As one expert, there's zero supporting evidence that the content of the notes is true, underscoring how the memo's reliance on unverified dialogue undermines its credibility. Pentagon officials, when questioned in hearings, professed ignorance of such programs and affirmed no possession of extraterrestrial origins. And of course, there's Eric Davis has made a great deal of exotic technologies and crash retrieval claims without any corroborating evidence. Davis has frequently described UAP displaying physics-defying capabilities such as warp bubbles for propulsion, citing incidents like the 2004 Nimitz Tic Tac event. He's gone further, asserting knowledge of crash retrievals involving non-human craft and off-world vehicles not made of this earth, purportedly held by private contractors. In a 2020 New York Times piece, he hinted at exotic metamaterials with unnatural isotopic ratios, suggesting they came from reverse engineering efforts of alien spacecraft concealed from the public. Yet these statements crumble under scrutiny. A comprehensive Pentagon review in 2024 found no evidence of extraterrestrial origins for any UAP sightings or that the U.S. government possessed any alien technology or bodies for reverse engineering. Skeptics, including those from the All-Domain Anomaly Research Office, or AARO, attribute many claims to misinterpretations of real events or sensitive programs, not ET artifacts. Davis's references to Russian reverse engineering programs have been dismissed as disinformation by investigators like Sean Kirkpatrick, designed to mislead the American public rather than reveal the truth. Without physical samples or declassified data for peer review, those narratives remain speculative at best and anecdotal at worst. And then, of course, recently he started talking about classifications of non-human intelligence. And this, of course, is hearsay, which masquerades as facts. At a 2025 UAP briefing, Davis categorized 4 types of alleged alien entities: Greys, Nordics, insectoids, and reptilians, based on eyewitness accounts and what he said were intelligence reports. He linked these events, like the misnamed Roswell crash and paranormal incidents at Skinwalker Ranch, even recounting a walk-in entity experience. So his claims have been met with derision for its foundation in unverified lore rather than evidence. After all, who told him that there's these four kinds of aliens visiting Earth? And what evidence did he present? None. Davis himself qualified statements these statements with phrases like "people have talked about" or "I've heard from people," indicating reliance on secondhand information that has no direct proof. Critics argue this presents alien lore as fact irresponsibly. And so, as one review noted, the absence of concrete evidence after decades suggests the absence of evidence is evidence of absence. Implications for disclosure and scientific integrity. Davis's work has influenced congressional hearings. Our government has spent money based on people like Eric Davis. We know that Eric Davis wasted $22 million along with his friends Hal Puthoff, who, by the way, was a high-ranking Scientologist and was fooled by somebody doing children's magic tricks into believing that that person had psychic powers. They wasted a lot of money with that program, too, though I'm not sure if Eric Davis was directly involved in that and the Uri Geller joke with Hal Puthoff. Then there were documentaries recently, like The Age of Disclosure, which I have labeled the worst UFO documentary or propaganda program or piece that I've ever seen in my life. Because this documentary just recycles Eric Davis's claims without any new proof. But then he does make new claims without any new proof. And somehow that's supposed to be progress towards disclosure. Relying on evidence-free anecdotes or stories, a tactic critiqued as compensating for evidential voids. And recently he had this exchange with Eric Weinstein, which highlight and sensationalize juicy debates, but still offer no verifiable data or any outcome. Davis' assertions risk being lumped in with historical hoaxes. Ultimately, while Eric Davis urges scientific investigation, his decades-long claims underscore a core issue. Extraordinary assertions demand extraordinary evidence, which remains conspicuously absent when Eric Davis tells stories. Until tangible proof emerges beyond classified whispers and disputed handwritten memos, the UFO discourse tied to Davis will likely stay mired in skepticism. All right, and now we will get off my soapbox here. Thank you for indulging me. And we are going to get to the video in just a moment, but before we do that, I just want to show you what kind of person this loon Eric Davis is. Because when somebody asks him for proof or evidence, he loses his mind and starts cursing at them. And oh man, it is something else. So, and by the way, I'm not defending him. He can defend himself and tell his own version of this story. I was just a bystander during this one. But I believe, as best I recall, this is some time ago. I believe that John Greenwald of the Black Vault basically called him out for telling evidence-free stories without any corroborating evidence, or, was critical or skeptical of him. Then here's what Eric Davis had to say. Greenwald Jr. is a know-it-all liar suffering from Dunning-Kruger effect, because lying makes him feel better about himself, since his work is so inconsequential and irrelevant to the scientific and intelligence-gathering analysis quest of discovering the origin, nature, and purpose of UAP visitation. Medical attention right away to get treatment for his ongoing dick and mouth disease. Like, whoa, you're supposed to be a scientist and you're saying somebody that was critical of you's got dick and mouth disease? I've been working professionally in UAP investigations and research, plus non-UAP related physics and engineering work in government contracting industry and academia long before Greenwald Jr. came along and figured out how to monetize clickbait to his UFO FOIA documents blog because he couldn't cut it in the real working world. At the end of the day, Greenwald is a typical blogger which equals an idiot with a computer and opinion. Boy, that's something from USA Today, since Eric Davis wants to be an ass scientific achievements. Star Trek fans may be happy. This was in USA Today some time ago. Star Trek fans may be happy to hear that the Air Force has paid to study psychic teleportation. So let's just take a minute here to recount the things that Eric Davis has wasted government money on: poltergeists, demons, bulletproof werewolves, shape-shifting werewolves, dino beavers, orbs, shape-shifting skinwalkers at Skinwalker Ranch. Did I mention poltergeist? Ghosts that followed him home. Psychic metal bending. You know, at some point you have to say, this guy is a crackpot. And that's what the Air Force called him. The Air Force called his research crackpot science. So there you go. You people are like, he's a really respected scientist. No, he's a wackadoo and a crackpot. And he promotes nonsense pseudoscience bullshit. And by the way, cards on the table, he's free to come here. And I will debate him on anything that he wasted government money on, like all those things I've mentioned. He was also paid $25,000 by the United States Air Force once for a teleportation physics report. So the Air Force Lab's August teleportation physics report, posted earlier this week at the Federation of American Scientists website, struck a raw nerve with physicists and critics of wasteful military spending. In the report, and now listen, this is after he wasted $22 million, I believe, right? Oh no, this is before. This is before he wasted $22 million studying dino beavers and shape-shifting Native American spirits and poltergeists and demons and dino beavers and portals at Skinwalker Ranch. This is before that. So in the report, author Eric Davis says psychic teleportation, moving yourself from one location to another location through mind powers, is quite real and can be controlled. The 88-page report also reviews a range of teleportation concepts and experiments. Quantum teleportation, a technique demonstrated in the last decade that shifts the characteristics but not the location of subatomic particles at great distances. Wormholes, a highly theoretical possibility where the intense gravitational field near black holes could rip open entrances to distant locales. Psychokinesis, or psychic teleportation. In support of the idea, Davis in this report cites UFO reports, Soviet and Chinese studies of psychics, and U.S. military studies of spoon-bending phenomenon. And here's where we get to it. Another physicist said it is in large part crackpot physics, says physicist Lawrence Krauss of Case Western Reserve University, author of The Physics of Star Trek, a book detailing the physical limits that prevent teleportation. He describes the Air Force report as some things adapted from reasonable theoretical studies and other things from nonsensical ones. Some experts have long criticized what they see as military sweet tooth for junk science, a remote viewing project, for example, undertaken by Defense Intelligence Services and declassified in 1994, thought to see whether psychic powers could be employed to spy on the Soviet Union. And who wasted that money? His boss, Hal Puthoff, wasted that money, studying psychics to spy on the Soviet Union. The teleportation report raises questions of scientific quality control at the Air Force. Yeah, you hired a wackadoo. Davis, a physicist with Warp Drive Metrics of Las Vegas. What is Warp Drive Metrics of Las Vegas? That's another one of Hal Puthoff's scammy companies, right? They couldn't be reached for comment. The Air Force paid $25,000 for the report, part of a $20.5 million advanced rocket and nuclear design contract. The report calls for $7.5 million to conduct psychic teleportation experiments. Eric Davis wanted $7.5 million of your tax dollars to study psychic teleportation. The views expressed in the report are those of the author and do not necessarily reflect the official policy of the Air Force, the Department of Defense, or the U.S. government, says Air Force Research Lab. Statement sent to USA Today. There are no plans by the Propulsion Directorate for additional funding on this contract. Yes, so they basically fired his ass because he's a wackadoo, right? And they didn't want to waste any more money on his wackadoo fake science. So you assholes on Twitter, like, you can't make fun of him, Stephen. He's a real scientist. He's a wackadoo who believes in wackadoo things. And we know he believes in wackadoo things. Here's some additional reporting by Stephen Greenstreet of the New York Post, who's the only person who's ever gotten all of these UFO nutter stories correct in the mainstream media. Everybody else just goes for the clickbait. Eric Davis and former Pentagon contractor claims, 1, there are 4 alien species on Earth: reptilians, greys, Nordics, and insectoids. 2, while ghost hunting at Skinwalker Ranch, he heard a voice inside his head saying, "We are watching you." 3, Skinwalker's spooky things followed him home and haunted his house. 4, poltergeists and UFOs are connected to each other and are all part of the same phenomenon. And finally, bending spoons with your mind and traveling through wormholes to visit dinosaurs is possible. This was part of a crackpot taxpayer pundit paper he authored while at the Air Force Research Laboratory. That is correct. So there we have Eric Davis, a complete and total nut job and wackadoo. And Mr. Greenstreet didn't include some of his latest statements, which were in this age of disclosure, which we ripped to shreds, right? I will be checking in routinely with the Kick Live chat, so don't be shy over there with the support. And for those unaware, we're a viewer-supported show. We read every single super chat. We thank every single person supporting our show. If you want to see more shows like this that peel back the layers of deception that these UFO wackadoos and scammers use to create a false reality. And by the way, just to be clear, I believe that the whole UFO and alien subject is a false reality. It's a false reality. It's an escape from reality. Wouldn't it be cool if the government was hiding aliens? Yeah, wouldn't it make the boring world much more exciting? But do I believe that's true? No, because every rabbit hole I go down ends in the same Lucy and the football disappointment. Like, on the surface, sounds good. Former government scientist says this about the government. He says the government is hiding alien bodies and alien spacecraft and alien technology. Wow, a former government scientist is saying that? It sounds very believable and very credible until you peel back the layers of deception and see all the things that I have just talked about that this man has been involved in. He's basically ready for a fucking rubber room, this guy is. He needs to get a new jacket, a straight one. Because when you start talking about, alien bodies and teleporting to see dinosaurs and how you saw a dino beaver that must have teleported from the past to the Skinwalker Ranch, and how you're hearing voices in your head and a demon apparently possessed him and spoke through him once. Like, it's time to be 302. You could be committed. Perfect harmony with one more for the goal. She's the MVP of support tonight so far. Thank you, Perfect Harmony, for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. It is much, much appreciated. All right, so I'm not sure how much of this video we're going to get through. Yeah, it's 4 hours long. My God. Oh boy. Let's see how much of it we can get through. And I'm going to put my fair use banner up. This is a transformative work. We're educating the public. We're critiquing the video. I'll be providing commentary and my thoughts on the video that we are sharing. This is covered under fair use and is certainly allowable by law. Further making this a transformative work, I'll be sharing my audience's comments on the screen as they will be commenting on the video that we are sharing, making it further transformative. Smoking Dogmen. Yes, the Smoking Dogmen and the Dino Beaver. That's what we wasted $22 million, right? Skinwalker Ranch is a super fun site of bullshit. Yes. I agree. I agree with Elaine Walls here. I have always loved science fiction, but I won't believe in aliens until they fly down and I see them for myself. Yes. He illegally channeled the demon through a pirate site. He did not pay a subscription. He didn't buy the CE5 app. Pirate. Dino beavers on penny earthlings. David Wilcock is the one who came up with the time-traveling smoking dinosaurs. No, time-traveling dinosaurs came from Eric Davis. Actually, David Wilcock stole it from him. Eric Davis's paper on time-traveling dinosaurs. And by the way, there's a paper that's so goddamn ridiculous. Like there's a illustration that looks like it was drawn by a child of Einstein waving to Barney the dinosaur through a wormhole, like a portal. This is not science. This is pseudoscience nonsense. And let's not forget that he's heavily connected to Hal Puthoff, who's a high-ranking Scientologist who believes he got superpowers from taking Scientology courses. Both he and his wife, Hal Puthoff, were once high-ranking Scientology members, though they have tried to deny it. So let's get in the video. We got a lot to cover tonight. If you're just joining us, you're watching Truth Seekers, and I'm trying to do these things called best practices. So I'm supposed to remind you, if you're just joining us, if you have not already, please do smash that subscribe button. Huge boost to the channel. Really does help us here and keep you informed of our upcoming shows.
So you're going to create a wormhole on demand?
You should be able to. That's what my research showed.
Yes, you should be able to create a wormhole on demand. But the problem is that it takes an inordinate amount of energy, like the energy of an entire sun for its entire lifetime, in order to bend space-time at all. So, there's things that are, is it theoretically possible? Sure. But where, Eric Davis, are you getting all of a sun's energy for its entire lifetime to open an inch, and by the way, I'm not a physicist, but I know that the energy required to warp space-time is a ridiculous amount of energy. And that's what they never tell you when they talk about these theoretical physics stories.
So walk me through, how do I get to Alpha Centauri by engineering a traversable wormhole?
Well, you're going to create...
Eric Davis, you are kind of synonymous with UFO science. You have an amazing background.
The UFO is not a science. It's a subculture of lunatics, in my opinion. It's not science. There's no science. There may be a little bit of science, but mostly it's stories, Jesse Michels. So be accurate. Eric Davis is synonymous with UFO stories. He's not synonymous with science when it comes to UFOs, because his science has been called crackpot research, Jesse Michels. Didn't you read that USA Today article? And there's a bunch of other newspaper articles about his research being crackpot nonsense too. I guess you forgot to tell your audience about that, because of course Jesse Michels isn't going to tell his audience that his guests are wackadoos.
At Aerospace Corporation, Earth Tech, worked with NASA Lewis. Eric Weinstein, you are a math
I believe
PhD.
Aerospace Corporation and Earth Tech are both Hal Puthoff's companies.
Harvard, who has dared to present a theory of everything in physics.
The alleged Roswell crash was real. There was a there. It really happened.
It's source. Trust me, bro. This is the same thing he did in the Age of Disclosure documentary. Big claims, zero evidence.
How is it possible that something this large that involves this many people has zero incontrovertible pieces of evidence?
Do you dispute the existence of atomic weapons because you can't access it?
I can't access it.
Oh, you can access it.
I have no idea what we just did.
It is a crash retrieval, 9 human intelligence, 9 human technology.
How many of those crash retrieval program people have you met?
I think it's 5 total. And there's no physics in it.
It doesn't make any sense.
And by the way, this is kind of like the sizzle reel for the hours long thing to come, which I'm glad they did, because I don't know how much of this we'll get through. This is how most of this went. Like, Eric Davis said nonsensical things. And by the way, I'm not on Weinstein's side here. I'm not a huge fan of his. In fact, I'm not a fan of his at all. I think he talks a lot of smack too and nonsense. But my brain's not big enough to read his theory of everything or understand it. I once tried, I gave up. Once the math starts all turning into letters, I kind of zone out. Guy may be onto something. I don't know. But the one thing I will say is I've noticed something. I worked with academics. I once worked at Drexel University for a short time doing Linux servers. But the professors there, they all academics are people that are very well educated. Maybe this is just my experience. They talk down to people who don't have their level of education. And for whatever reason, he's not really talking down to Davis during this whole thing. I was surprised at how respectful he was. Of course, you know me, I would have been screaming at this guy in 5 minutes in, that's just my nature.
Say again?
It defies the laws of physics. We haven't made progress. We have no physicists. How are they doing on this project decades in?
This thing is...
And by the way, Eric Davis and many people have famously said, these craft defy the laws of physics. So Weinstein once said, well, show me a physicist that agrees with you besides you. And they can't. They can't show one physicist that agrees that UFOs defy the laws of physics. And isn't that interesting? That has been a long-held talking point of UFO believers. These things defy the laws of physics. You'll hear it in almost every documentary, in almost every UFO podcast, every UFO promoter, every UFO lecture at a UFO live event. Somebody will say that. They defy the laws of physics. So Weinstein is correctly pointing out, well, where's the physicists that say that? Show them to me. And none of these people can, because that's simply not true.
Not a Manhattan Project. And you know what the Manhattan Project was.
Not one of these proposals excites me. They're boring as sin. I don't like GR. Why are you not tweaking it?
I don't have intuition on how I could tweak it.
Are there propulsion modalities that you're high conviction in that transcend chemical combustion?
By the way, I just have to say, one of the ways that you're able to spot real bullshit in the UFO community is they spend all their time on fancy production because they don't have any evidence. Imagine if you had really good, incontrovertible proof of alien visitation on Earth. Would you be wasting time putting stock images in between every statement or putting fancy AI videos in between? Maybe I'm just jealous because I don't have time to, splice up mine, right? Spruce my show up, but we have actual data points. We have actual evidence that we could show you, at least of some of these people being wackadoos. It's just funny. One of the ways that you spot the biggest UFO bullshitters is that it's very glitzy. It's like a sweet lie that they're giving you. They sweeten up the lies with fancy production here. Tales of the Sonic Voyage is here with one for the goal. This one I'm confused by. It must be another Eric Davis. I don't see this guy playing any sports. I liked Eric Davis a lot more when he played center field for the Reds. Wait, that's got to be a different guy. Come on, that's got to be a different guy. But thank you, Tales of the Sonic Voyage, because defining the laws of physics means defining common agreed values, not reality. Think Lorentz law. Listen, I would love to believe that maybe we can't break the laws of physics, but we can find workarounds so that we can travel vast distances in the stars. I still want to believe. Let's continue. We got a lot to get through.
Yeah, it goes way beyond even advanced.
Are you aware of reports that we are being
monitored?
Made to know that we do not control our space?
Yes.
When you see smoke at this level, the question is, what is the nature of the fire? There are different fires.
But there's
a smoke machine.
Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. Or there is smoke there, but it's a smoke machine. Smoke and mirrors is how I have often described the whole UFO mythology for 80 years now. It's all anecdotes, stories. It's smoke and mirrors and promises of evidence to come that never seems to arrive.
It's a smoke machine.
Right. Epstein was running many different programs. It wasn't even Epstein probably running. Look, I believe we can leave. And if you believe you can leave, you have to imagine that you're being visited.
Ignition sequence start.
Like I said, big production, really, really bad on actual, data.
Nothing too unusual about that.
Their existence cannot longer be denied.
I wonder how much that guy spends on editing in a year.
Before we continue, I want to take a second to thank one of my favorite products in the world.
All right, he's hawking something. What is? Ketone IQ. That's what he's. Yeah, yeah. You should boost your IQ if you're watching Jesse Michels, because if you watch Jesse Michels unironically, like really thinking that he's bringing you the truth, you're probably retarded. So you do need you do need something to help you with your IQ level if you're watching Jesse Michels on purpose. Let's go to where this starts.
In this space, when we're talking about UFOs, UFO legacy, reverse engineering programs, you have
look at this set. It looks like a sci-fi fantasy of a child,
like a wave
of inside a spaceship, doesn't it? Or is it just me? I don't know.
Function that never sort of collapses, and you have different sides saying things that are mutually exclusive, and truth, it never collapses into true or false. And I'm really excited to do that.
That's called falsifiability, which is falsifiability covers everything that Eric Davis has ever said. I can't prove that he didn't talk to people that worked on alien spaceships, but he can't prove he did. So therefore, his information is totally worthless, totally meaningless. If I can't prove that something is either true or false, it doesn't pass the test of falsifiability. Therefore, it is worthless. It's worthless information. It's infotainment.
This because Eric Weinstein, you probably need no introduction when it comes to kind of a general audience. You are a math PhD from Harvard, premier cultural commentator of our generation, who has dared to present a theory of everything in physics. And then Eric Davis, you definitely need no introduction in UFO space, but to maybe a more general audience, some of who might have seen you in this recent Age of Disclosure movie. You are kind of synonymous with UFO science. You have an amazing background.
No such thing as UFO science.
At Aerospace Corporation.
Unless you count Mick West's debunk software, that I would consider UFO science.
Earth Tech. You've worked with NASA Lewis. You've worked on various initiatives in exotic propulsion, directed energy. And so very excited to have you both. Today,
yes, decades of failure talking about wackadoo things. That's Eric Davis's legacy. Wackadoo nonsense. That's what he works on. Hal Puthoff's company that he works for is trying to tell people that they're going to come up with exotic propulsion and free energy and all this stuff. I'd like to ask Eric, why don't you ask your guest, Jesse, how much money did Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis collect to study those things, and what can they show us that they have working? Oh, that's right. They can't show us anything working because free energy is a fantasy. It's not real science. Echo Day with one for the goal. Dr. Diabetes Davis is a former government scientist for a reason. Cuckoos like him don't get clearances. They do disinfo podcasts in rumpled shirts. Well, kind of makes sense, Echo Day, and thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. God bless you and all of our supporters. Thank you for your kindness, along with Broken Hip with 149 thrown in the hat, a nice super sticker that I can't see, but the live chat can see it, and we'll check in quickly with the Kick live chat. Still good on that end. Let's continue here. I can't believe it's 4 hours of this.
I want to make this kind of two parts. One part is kind of establishing ground truth on Eric Davis's claims, because he's formally investigated this UFO legacy reverse engineering program. So I want to.
Yes, he's formally investigated things at the Skinwalker Ranch and come back with no evidence. He came back with stories, Jesse Michels. That's what he came back with, stories that poltergeists followed him home. We spent $22 million, us taxpayers, so that Eric Davis could tell us that poltergeist followed him home from Skinwalker Ranch, or that a demon possessed him and spoke through his body, right? Like, the whole framing here is disingenuous and dishonest by Jesse Michels, because Jesse Michels has to pretend that Eric Davis is a credible scientist. We just showed you his work was called crackpot science, Jesse. Come on.
Figure out what those claims are for the audience. And then part two, and this is why we have you here, Dr. Weinstein, is I want to figure out and this is kind of actually a follow-up on this thing we did with Hal Puthoff last time. If there is a theoretical physics component to this UFO legacy reverse engineering program, is there physics hiding in private aerospace corporations? Physics you can think of as the rules of reality itself. That would be problematic, to say the least, if that were the case. And so I'm very excited to speak to you both.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Awesome. So
two big guests that get clickbait views. That's why he's excited, because he knew this was going to do well. But kudos to him, because at least somebody, please, Weinstein, you've got to call Eric Davis on his decades-long history of bullshit stories.
Eric Davis, I want
one thing I wanted to put on the record as well. The Eric Davis notes want us, if you believe Mr. Eric Davis, he wants us to believe that a very decorated 4-star admiral in the United States Navy was handed a fake document called the NRO document. You can look it up on the Black Vault. Was handed a fake government document that talked about retrieval programs, and that got him to go hunting for aliens. That admiral has a whole staff. He would know if somebody was giving him a fake document. So there's that, little inconvenient data point. I don't really see too many 4-star generals running around the country looking for aliens because they were handed a fake document. And who handed the admiral that fake document? Dr. Stephen Greer handed him that fake document.
to start with you. When did you become aware of this UFO legacy reverse engineering program, and how did you become aware of it, and how are you so high confidence in it?
And by the way, I'm all for people having Eric Davis as a guest, because the more he talks, the more he reveals himself to be a complete and total nutter, loon, wackadoo, and bullshitter.
I was working at NIDS. It'd be 30 years this July. And
NIDS was Bob Bigelow's group.
Was the director of aerospace physics and astrophysics research at NIDS. That's National Institute for Discovery Science that Bob Bigelow founded in 1995. And I was hired in July of 96 along with Colin Kelleher and George Onett.
By the way, he suddenly had that meeting with Admiral Tom Wilson that he claimed that he had shortly after being fired or let go or laid off of NIDS. Wow, isn't that great? He got all the proof that those guys were looking for of the military having a crash retrieval program right after he got let go from the program. Not suspicious at all.
And John Alexander was already there on the staff, also served as a member of the Science Advisory Board. So I worked for Air Force Research Lab after NIDS and before Hal Puthoff hired me at URTEC. Okay, so then during my work at...
And again, Hal Puthoff is the guy that got fooled by children's magic tricks into believing that Uri Geller had psychic powers. But of course, Hal Puthoff claims he got his own psychic powers from taking high-level Scientology classes, he and his wife. And he even wrote about getting superpowers in a Scientology publication. And of course, he later denied that he was a high-ranking Scientologist. And why are you writing papers suggesting you can get superpowers in their publications, Hal Puthoff? And Hal Puthoff was part of the multi-million-dollar To the Stars Academy scam, whereby he, Lou Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, Tom DeLonge, and others involved promised they were going to build a spaceship with a revolutionary power source that would change the world, and that they may have alien spaceship parts, and they were going to do all the science and prove it. And they took millions of dollars from stupid UFO people, and they never did anything that they said. That has been described as a techno scam.
AFRL, and then during my 15 years working with Hal Puthoff, we got involved with the OSAP/ATIP, and then later on the separate attempt called ATIP, and then the UAP task force that Jay Stratton led. And using my security clearances, my need to know, my access, including my letter that I'm deputized by Jim Lukatsky as a representative of the Defense Intelligence Agency.
By the way, everybody he just read off have equally made unverifiable claims about aliens and UFOs. Every person's name who he just dropped and rattled off like we're supposed to be impressed by were all people that are about as credible as crackheads, just like him, who constantly say things, right? Was it Lukatsky who said that he's been inside a UFO, right? He gained access to a UFO. That could mean anything. That could mean he stepped on a Frisbee. You know,
used all that leverage.
none of them ever provided any proof. So this guy has been involved in wacky research, sucking money from the government. How much money is my government going to waste giving to Eric Davis to study things like fucking wormholes and poltergeists and werewolves? I don't want to pay taxes, and then my taxes go to this nut job. He's a nut job.
And authority to get into the crash retrieval program. I couldn't get access to see craft bodies or talk to the people, but I was able to get in to the people who handled all of that at a programmatic level and got confirmation that all of that was real, that all of it happened.
And
okay, so a third-hand story. He didn't speak to people who actually worked on the craft. He spoke to people who verified the programs are real. Who? Hal Puthoff? Was it James Lukatsky that verified this for him? All these other people? This is one big self-licking ice cream cone, just as the Arrow director. It's one big UFO circle jerk. They all tell each other stories, use each other for sources. Nobody has any evidence. It's just all one big stupid game of telephone.
And what's your conviction level in, say, Roswell, for example, like that being a real crash involving non-human biologics?
It's 100%.
100%.
It's 100%. And it wasn't.
Trust me, bro, that really happened. Can you show us proof that it happened? Well, no, but some people told me it happened. So again, all secondhand stories. He has no firsthand knowledge of anything. And when he does have firsthand knowledge, it falls apart as a ridiculous, stupid story. Like, poltergeist followed me home from Skinwalker Ranch, guys. Trust me. A demon possessed me and talked through me.
In Roswell, New Mexico.
Sounds like a raving lunatic.
It was on the Foster Ranch in Corona, New Mexico, which is 30 miles from Roswell.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
I had my
original radio broadcast, which was later immediately denied.
Information I got from Ed Mitchell at a science advisory board meeting about the Greer briefings on the disclosure project at the Pentagon, and then Admiral Wilson coming back and verifying that the Roswell crash, well, the Corona crash actually really did happen.
And Admiral Tom Wilson, you know, Jesse Michels, you're just going to let this guy slander a decorated Navy admiral who said that his stories were works of fiction, his stories about him specifically, verifying any of this or even meeting with him. And by the way, Admiral Tom Wilson has said that he wasn't in Nevada at the time the alleged meeting of the Wilson notes was supposed to have taken place, and that he can prove that he was in another state at the time, a country away. Right? He was on the East Coast, I believe he said.
It wasn't a mogul balloon. It wasn't a raw wind radar test balloon project. It wasn't a weather balloon. It wasn't anything of that nature. It was a real craft of unknown origin that was adjudicated to be not of human origin or construct.
And he'd show us proof that it was not of alien. It was not of human origin? No, of course not.
And it crashed on the Foster Ranch in Corona, New Mexico. And then there's my work with Dave Grush when I was at the Aerospace Corporation. He was at the Aerospace Corporation building in Colorado Springs because he worked for their government customer, which occupied 1 or 2 floors there.
What was David Grush doing in that capacity?
He
apparently drinking heavily and getting himself put in mental institutions. Another stupid source. Remember, Dave Grush made all those claims, very similar claims to Eric Davis. The government has alien bodies, the government has alien spaceships, and he's provided no evidence for 1,009 days now since his initial claims. So pardon me if I don't believe any of the people, all the people that he mentioned so far are total wackadoos. David Grush is a former mental patient who says that alien space goblins, I'm sorry, I always get in trouble for that. He didn't say alien space goblins. He said interdimensional space monsters were murdering humans on Earth. And he's provided no evidence of that. And boy, how am I going to say that name? Stuckelberger Dog. That's the best I could do. Sorry. Good episode. Keep up the good work. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. Much, much appreciated. New supporter, I think. So we welcome new supporters. Thank you for that. And Miss Fallist Cooper with 1 for the goal. I prefer your Spartan editing with vigorous pursuit of the truth as opposed to Nepo baby budget backgrounds, BS narrative. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. It is much, much appreciated. And listen, if I had nothing to provide as far as evidence or data points, we provide a multitude of data points for every show, by the way. And I also will share my sources with anyone. I'll give anybody the links that I use, in my research. And I will begin soon. I'm going to be putting some of the scripts and the things that I put on the record. I'm going to put them on Patreon, and anybody can follow the links there. But if somebody emails me and asks me for links to the research that I present here, I always share it with them. So thank you, Miss Phyllis Cooper, for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. Much, much appreciated.
Was, I think, a security contractor or advisor to a program manager. Dave was the NRO liaison officer to the UAP task force. So he...
and we've heard about the UAP task force. I hate to keep interrupting, but I have to. The UAP task force that Eric Davis is so proud of being a consultant or working with or for, you know who else they had as a consultant? Somebody who said they had psychic powers and can talk to your dead grandmother for $150. Sarah Gam was her name. And then there's that other nutbag. His name escapes me. African-American gentleman who was just on Jeremy Corbell telling fake stories with no evidence again. Are you noticing a pattern? All these people are great at telling stories. Nobody has any evidence. So Sarah Gam was a member of the UAP task force. She tells people that she also has psychic powers and can talk to your dead grandma for $150. Then there's the other guy who was recently featured on George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell's weaponized podcast. Monetize your curiosity. He says that a ghost girl tickles his feet at night. He was also an analyst for the UAP task force. Are we noticing a pattern of wackadoos here? It's kind of ridiculous that my government is wasting money on all of these wackadoo people and their wackadoo claims and stories.
Took direction from Jay Stratton.
Wasn't he National Geospatial Agency?
No, I said the NRO, the National Reconnaissance
Yeah, you
Office.
said that, but I thought he was National Geospatial.
No, that was later.
That was later.
That was later. Yeah.
Okay, so he's the NRO liaison.
So during the UAPTF,
yeah,
he was the liaison officer on behalf of the NRO.
Yes,
to
the UAPTF was disbanded. You know who else worked for that? Skinwalker Ranch guy. Who's that hillbilly? Dr. Geez. Oh, he's been a nutter on Skinwalker Ranch. Travis Taylor, the guy who can't tell the difference between a bug flying in front of a camera and an alien spaceship mothership that's doing 3,000 miles an hour. He was also on the UAPTF. Are we noticing a trend here? Awful lot of nutters.
To the task force.
Yep. Got it.
So he worked with Travis Taylor, Jay
go.
Stratton. There's some other folks that don't want to be named, I know. So I just know that there's a core group core group of
Carl Nell is a disgraced former military man. Isn't he the guy that got thrown out of the military for reprisals against whistleblowers? But he's going to tell us the truth about the aliens. He apparently or allegedly, there's a long story with that. We've covered him before. Another nutter who says aliens are 100% visiting Earth. And at the SALT conference, he was asked, what's your evidence for that? Why are you so convinced? Well, people like David Grush have said it, and so has Lou Elizondo, so it must be true. He cites two people that have never provided any verifiable proof of his claims that aliens are visiting Earth. That's his proof. Somebody told me.
40 people, but there was a peripheral body of 1,000 people that contributed some of their time and labor and resources, and the other government agencies, DOD agencies, intelligence agencies, to feed information to the task force.
A lot of people ask about kind of circular reporting when it comes to UFO.
Yeah, it's called a circle jerk, Jesse Michels. You're the king of circle jerking.
Your
show is a circle jerk, a UFO circle jerk.
Testimonies.
Just let him sit there and circle jerk you, saying all of these different people he worked with, all of which have verifiable problems with their credibility. he just sat there and circle jerked you. And now you're going to ask about circular reporting so he can deny that.
David Grush is what a lot of people, I think, are hinging their belief on, because he's just seems like a very kind of honest, above board guy who stumbled into a lot of this stuff.
This is the Forrest Gump of UFOs.
How many of his witnesses, his 40 witnesses, are more of kind of the hapless engineer type that just worked on the vehicles versus people who have, you know, kind of secondhand or, you know, third hand?
No, they're
this is interesting because earlier he said he never himself, Eric Davis never himself talked to the people that actually worked on the program. Yet he also says that he's the one that pointed David Grush to these 40 whistleblowers that all have firsthand knowledge. So which is it? If you never talked to people that had firsthand knowledge or worked on the program, how are you directing other people like Dave Grush to talk to the people that have firsthand knowledge and actually worked on the program? You know, this is a glaring problem here. Like, we're 12 minutes in and he's already going to contradict himself and his previous statements, because this is what bullshitters do. They lose track of their lies.
Firsthand. It's just that it's something that Eric and I had lots of hours and hours of conversations about 2 years ago. Not a single of them were a physicist. Not a single one of these guys were physicists. They had some discipline in engineering in their...
So 40 firsthand witnesses, but none of them were physicists. And again, earlier he said he never talked to firsthand witnesses. He just talked to program managers that confirmed the programs were real or that these events were real. It's a glaring contradiction.
In their profession. They were either electrical engineers, material scientists, aerospace engineers, aeromechanical, aerothermal, thermal control, fluid mechanics. Yeah.
Save that thought.
There wasn't a real physicist there. Nobody at the PhD level who is either an applied physicist or a theoretical physicist.
Save that thought, please, because that is going to basically be the entire kind of premise for the second part.
Okay.
Theoretical physics fascinates me. The fact that you could have a supremely high-paying job just theorizing things, basically speculating. You're a professional speculator. But sometimes those theoretical physicists make breakthroughs, so I guess they're worth paying. I don't know.
Do you have any questions as I'm sort of, you know?
Well, you know, look, one of the things that I dislike very strongly about the UAP world is that you spend an inordinate amount of time, if you're just trying to be an honest, analytic person, with is there any actual tangible, incontrovertible proof? And it always seems like there's somehow this tight-knit group of people who, in general, themselves don't have direct proof, but sort of have proof one thing away. And people build entire theories about, you know, the names of crafts and who was where. And I just have no idea, as a civilian and a technical civilian,
no, he's a mathematician,
how to think about this, because I don't want to spend our time in the is it real or not
it's heavily focused on
mode, because that basically wastes time. And it's also how conspirators get people not to work on conspiracy theories that could work, is that you demonize and stigmatize the behavior. So I usually would prefer in this situation to just decamp and assume the nature of all of these things. But just to be honest, and it just needs to be said once, I've been looking at this now, I don't know, 5 years since Jesse first crammed it down my throat. And I would say I was clearly wrong about it. It's an enormous area. There's so many people who claim to have had contact with this program in one form or another. I can't believe that anyone could train an acting troupe at Brando levels of sincerity to lie to me like that. On the other hand, I've never seen anything like it where I can't get a single shred of incontrovertible proof, and so many people seem to have it, but they all seem to be under some kind of an NDA where they can't give something real. So just the first frustrating question is, how is it possible that something this large that involves this many people has zero scientifically incontrovertible pieces of evidence, so that we can actually, there's no way to predicate a discussion in a way that I know that's responsible. It just completely eludes the scientific community.
Yeah, it's because the incontrovertible evidence is kept in the classified realm for security reasons.
Well, but
there you go.
Again, I don't want to.
Do you dispute the existence of atomic weapons because you can't access it?
I can access it.
Oh, you can access it.
Yes,
if I look at the teller, plutonium core.
No, never kept the demon core in my
Okay.
basement.
Oh, how about the
But I appreciate
the
the
lithium-6 fuel and
What?
the primary nuclear?
Oh, we used to do that in high school.
Oh,
No. What I'm saying is that the Teller-Ulam design is released as a highly redacted report,
Found us.
right? And so I have an idea from plenty of
Yes, so we love new subscribers. Please be sure, if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button now. Big boost to our channel. Really, really helps us out and costs nothing. And smash the notification, hit that notification bell. You'll know when we're doing a live broadcast. Glad you found us and welcome. Yes. So I think this is a valid point Weinstein is making. Where is the proof? It's always a little bit away. And people like Eric Davis have all this knowledge, right? He knows how many races of aliens are visiting Earth, but that's not classified. He's just allowed to talk about it. None of this makes any sense.
That this program exists. And what's more, in the case of atomic weapons, physicists are not perfectly locked down. It's a high trust community, and in general, people are willing to talk. Even if they shouldn't, about the role of physics in atomic weapons. I have never heard a colleague, not once, at a high level in physics, give any credence to this world. In other words,
well, that's because they didn't have access. They didn't have need to know. They didn't have a contract where they had to have access.
Which again, it's not a challenge in that sense. Assume that there is a dividing line, but it means that
no real physicists
in the Manhattan Project, right? We called in Feynman and Bohr and Fermi and von Neumann, and put them under Robert Oppenheimer and Teller and all these cats and
Bethe and
Beta, right? But in so doing, I would say, okay, I would imagine that if this is an existential threat, that there's stuff from someplace we can't understand that moves and breaks the laws of physics and all this, we would call that in. Now, one of the great things that came out of our discussions before is you said this thing, which I repeated on Rogan because I didn't think it was classified. You said, when it comes to being technical, just at this point, that they don't invite in physicists, you said, you said that Eric, you, me, and Hal Puthoff are the three most technical people on this. And I said, I'm not on this.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah. That's the problem. You should be in it.
Okay, but
the entire government, who can hire anybody they want, is facing an existential threat, an unknown species from the stars visiting Earth, but they don't call in any physicists. It's just Eric Davis, who's a wackadoo who believes that poltergeists follow him home from a spooky ranch, and Hal Puthoff, who believes he has superpowers and that Uri Geller had superpowers, when, by the way, he admitted he was using children's magic tricks to fool Hal Puthoff at an International Brotherhood of Magicians conference once, where he was selling an expensive course in how to do the fake psychic tricks he does, right? And the other scientist is Eric Weinstein, who just said, I'm not working on this. Those are the only three physicists, right? Perfect harmony. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support, my friends. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 True Seekers gifted memberships, and she gifted 5 earlier. So that's 10 people, I believe, that have gotten a free gifted membership, all from the kindness, generosity, and support of Perfect Harmony. Thank you for your kindness. And once again, I'm going to remind you, smash that subscribe button. 10 people tonight have won a free True Seekers channel membership. You get access to 80 members-only videos and the members-only section here on our YouTube channel. But you must be a subscriber. When a kind and generous person like Perfect Harmony here gives not just 5, but 10 True Seekers memberships tonight, you could win a free gifted membership, but you must be a subscriber. Thank you, Perfect Harmony, and God bless you. And we have Echo Day with another one for the goal. Weinstein is doing a good job diffusing and debunking Davis just by asking common sense questions. No PhD needed. Davis sounds like a toddler. It's classified, Echo Day. They didn't have a need to know. These are all UFO trope talking points that fall apart under the least little bit of scrutiny. The only criticism I have for Eric Weinstein is he didn't yell at him enough. I would have screamed at him, like, show me the proof. Name one person that actually worked on an alien spacecraft that I can interview and verify actually worked on government project. And he, But thank you, Eric Day, for your kindness, generosity, and support. We are rocketing towards the goal tonight for once. Thank you all for your support.
But that makes you Oppenheimer. And von Neumann and Feynman and Beta
No offense, Eric Davis is no Oppenheimer.
and Fermi is Hal, or something like that. In other words, or the reverse. But are you and Hal our Manhattan Project?
No, we're not directly involved. We've been exposed to it officially for the purpose of the OSAP's goals.
What is the question that I wish to ask? Can you figure
Well,
out?
I think what Eric's trying to ask, and I do want to actually continue along the former lines of just asking about kind of core evidence with Dr. Davis. But I think the question that Eric is trying to ask is, you just mentioned
Jesse Michels is a good show host. Look, he gave his guests the shitty supplement that he's hawking at the beginning of his show. Like, here, you guys need an IQ booster.
that none of Grush
That's a little bit insulting, at least to Weinstein.
is 40 witnesses that he handed over to the intelligence community inspector general.
Yes, and by the way, nothing came of those 40 witnesses. Nothing came of claims that Grush handed over witnesses to the ICIG, and they dismissed his complaint. Did you know that? Do you tell your audience that, Jesse? They dismissed Grush's complaint of reprisals against him?
Are theoretical physicists.
Right.
And so you have, your physics PhD, Hal's an electrical engineer. And
Well, he's also, his PhD was in laser physics, because when you go to Stanford in the 1960s, you can't get a PhD in physics or a master's.
So it's you two, and then Eric, who is a math PhD at the highest level, who can keep up with any physicist in the country and has his own physics theory of everything.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And so it's all three of you guys, but all three of you.
Davis is like, oh yeah, I know he's smarter than all of us. I know Weinstein is smarter than us.
Who are outsiders. He's a real outsider. You two have officially investigated this stuff, and you're saying they're
And wasted $22 million. Yes, Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis officially wasted $22 million. And then Hal Puthoff went on to also scam the public with To the Stars Academy, in my opinion.
There are no theoretical physicists on the core program.
I've never seen one. I've never gotten evidence from the people, from the leadership.
Bob Lazar was supposed to be a senior staff level physicist, and he claimed to work directly on alien flying saucers. Too bad he turned out to be a fake scientist, convicted pimp.
At the Aeros 2.
And that's also somebody that Jesse Michels is working on content with. A convicted pimp, fake scientist who claims he was a senior staff level physicist at Los Alamos, when we have on the record statements that he was a low-level technician and never a scientist.
Aerospace companies I personally interviewed with.
That's so wild.
I don't mean interviewed with, but who I investigated and interviewed leadership and a few of the worker bees involved.
Are there propulsion modalities that you're high conviction in that transcend chemical combustion?
Yeah, it goes way beyond even advanced nuclear, and nuclear in aerospace industry is fission, fusion, and antimatter annihilation. Way beyond that. I don't think we have a grasp of it. I haven't heard anybody that
Well, we do know that nuclear propulsion is real because people like Stanton Friedman worked on those projects, and many others, by the way. I've talked to a few people that worked on nuclear propulsion. For a while, for whatever reason, the United States government was convinced that they needed nuclear propulsion in order to reach Mars. So they put a great deal of money into time and resources. And Stanton Friedman was very sort of regretful because they just decided to drop funding, and all the major of the programs working on nuclear propulsion ceased to be at some point. That's what Stanton Friedman was working on before he became so well known as a UFO investigator, and kind of the person who really popularized the Roswell crash.
interviewed say that they have a grasp of it. And even as recently, unfortunately, the one technical person who ended up becoming a senior VP decades later at the biggest of the legacy aerospace companies, he was a material scientist working on the crash retrieval program after getting his doctorate, after earning his doctorate. And
can you tell us his name? Oh no, it's an anonymous source.
He got hired straight away to work on it for about roughly 2 decades.
Who is this? Who is that?
I'm not.
Okay. Yeah, no worries.
So
yeah, I'm not going to tell you. Just trust me, bro.
So basically, he's a material scientist. We've had a lot of classified and unclassified discussions, and I brought these questions up. I asked his questions.
Yeah.
And the answer is no. We didn't have theoretical physicists that we could put on this. We're strictly limited in the number of people on the bigot list. The bigot list is the list of people who need to know and access to a particular classified program. And if you're not on that list,
could you imagine that our government trusted this clown with classified information of any kind whatsoever? A guy who says poltergeist followed him home from a spooky ranch. This is ridiculous. Like, pull his classifications right now, fire this wackadoo clown until such time as he's able to provide proof of his out of this world wacky space goblin claims.
you don't get admitted.
So
you don't get invited.
This is an unacknowledged, waived, and bigoted special access program.
It's a waived, unacknowledged special access program, right?
Okay.
And so I said, so where are your physicists? What are your theoretical and applied physicists telling you? He said, well, we don't have any. We never did. We only were allowed to keep it down to roughly a handful of people in the company to work on this. And that's it. And it's limited to engineering. There's no physics in it.
Doesn't make any sense.
Say again?
Doesn't make any sense.
If
you've got a propulsion system that you can't figure out how it works, in other words, an alien propulsion system, the first people that you would bring in would be physicists, in my opinion. But who knows? So good for Weinstein for pointing out that this doesn't make any sense. Just from a science perspective, wouldn't you bring in all the world's leading experts on not just things like materials scientists, but propulsion experts, physics experts, aerodynamics experts to try to figure out the spacecraft and how it works? Remember, the whole point of this UFO mythology is that we have alien spaceships and we're trying to back engineer them. How are you back engineering a propulsion system you don't even understand that can travel vast distances at light speed or beyond, FTL, faster than light, if you don't even have a physicist looking at it? It is completely and totally childish and ridiculous. This is a glaring contradiction in Eric Davis and all of these wackadoo stories. Now we're hearing they don't even have any physicists working on it. It doesn't make any sense.
I'm just trying to logically think about this.
Okay.
And it's like saying we're having trouble performing Beethoven's Fifth, and we have the finest accountants, optometrists, boxers, and cardio trainers. And you're like, well, what about violinists and violists and anybody playing the French horn? And it's like, oh, well, we don't do that. Mm-hmm. So of course you're not going to play Beethoven's Fifth.
Eric Davis is starting to piss his pants right now. And he's regretting this discussion already. Look at him. 20 minutes in, he's falling apart.
I mean, because you can't engineer your way out of a science problem.
Yeah. But let me tell you, I think you've got a great point about talking about the Manhattan Project. This thing is not a Manhattan Project. And you know what the Manhattan Project was. We both do. We read the books. It was how many people? Thousands of people? Multidisciplinary.
So the white
people.
badges was the very small core, but the whole thing was enormous.
Yeah, you had industrial engineers, computational engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical
multiple
engineers,
sites,
explosives experts, nuclear physicists, and nuclear engineers. You had everybody of all the STEM disciplines there. You had to have mathematicians. And they were involved with that program to build up the fuel design, characterization, and manufacture. But this program doesn't. These programs don't have that. They deliberately keep it divided up among different companies to maintain plausible deniability in case there's a leak, and they keep it very small for the reason.
Okay, but it has to be centralized somewhere. The compartmentalized nature of Los Alamos and the Manhattan Project more broadly. Was still overseen by a small group who had universal access.
That's right. And also note that the Manhattan Project people had their families living with them too in a closed city.
That's right.
That's right. So they don't have an equivalent for this in the crash retrieval program. So there's disjointed groups of people, small numbers of people. They're not allowed to know about the other people.
Okay, those are the people,
what they're doing.
Those are the people who are in the stovepiped architecture.
Right. And the central portfolio
Well, I
owner
can't
is
say
a
much
three-letter
about
intelligence
myself.
agency. So that's who's is centrally in charge. It was
got
Leslie
all
Grove
right.
in the United States. Was it the
Dark room.
was Leslie the general of the Army Corps of Engineers, or was he in a different
I don't remember where he was.
Okay, but he was in
seated within
charge on
yeah,
behalf of the Army. He
wasn't.
ran it. He was the military boss, and Oppenheimer was the civilian boss of the Manhattan Project.
Do you take David Grush at face value that Dick Cheney was the last head honcho of this sort of program?
And there's not really a mob boss. The closest person we got that I was aware of was, unfortunately, now deceased Vice President Dick Cheney, Darth Vader himself. Not shocking that he was involved in this. And essentially, when he left in 2009, that was the.
So it's interesting that Dave Grush says that Dick Cheney was the one running all these programs. It just so happens to be dead, so nobody can fact check it. These UFO nutters love to claim that dead people did things or said things because nobody can check on it. And I think that's more than a little bit convenient.
Last time that these activities really had central leadership.
I never heard that before. So that never came up in our classified and unclassified conversations. I'm not aware that Dick Cheney had any role.
To speak to this three-letter, the head you cited a three-letter. In our discussion at Seoul in San Francisco, you directly said CIA, DS&T, at one time Glenn Gaffney, et cetera. So was the UFO program portfolio owner. So to Dr. Weinstein's question about
and I'm pretty sure Glenn
technical
Gaffney
rigor, physicists, did you ever have the opportunity to ask anybody near the head of this apparatus why there wasn't a stronger motivation to have physicists on staff? I mean, from an early era, why was there not that priority?
By the way, Eric Davis is always trying to get government research money or government jobs because he's a loser that can't make it in the regular world, right? If they didn't have physicists, why wouldn't they hire him if he's such a credentialed, educated, well-respected physicist? Could it be because he talks about werewolves and poltergeists following him home from spooky ranches? Could that be why they didn't hire him as a physicist? After all, he's got all this firsthand knowledge of all these programs, right? Amber Geddon is here with one for the goal, saying, I just escaped work. Praise the cash. That is correct, friends. Yes, praise the cash. Fat says, get that bag. Thank you, Amber, again, for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. For those unaware, we are a viewer-supported show. We read every single super chats that we get and call out all the kick support. We read the PayPal pledges. If you become a member during the live broadcast, we give you a big shout-out and thank you. Just smash that join button. I'll get a notification, give you a big thank you. Same for becoming a subscriber or gifting some subs on Kick. If you gift some True Seekers channel memberships, we give you a big shout-out. Thank you, Amber Geddon. And we want to thank Echo Boy with another one for the goal. Davis said publicly he hasn't had government clearance since 2012. Didn't Davis also used to work for Bigelow and hobnob with Linda Moulton Hale? Yes, that is correct, Echo. He did work for Bigelow, wasting government money, with wasting Bigelow's money with NIDS and later wasting the government money with OSAP, studying Skinwalker Ranch, right? But thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show.
Well, I would love to talk to the head of the crash retrieval program during that era, but he refused to talk to us.
And that was Glenn Gaffney?
Yeah, Glenn
okay.
Gaffney.
Glenn Gaffney. And who is Jim Ryder?
South aerospace facilities in Las Vegas due to a UAP material divestment plan proposal to OSAP leadership by Lockheed Martin Space Systems Vice President Dr. James Ryder.
And by the way, all of these people have denied involvement in any alien program, to the best of my knowledge. Oh, now deceased. Again, let's say a dead guy was running this.
He's the
dead men can't say I didn't run that alien program. So these UFO nutters love saying dead people did things, said things, ran things. You can't refute it. Again, none of this passes the test of falsifiability.
This Lockheed Martin Space Systems guy.
He was the senior vice president of the Lockheed Martin Space and Missiles Company, which is also the Space Systems Company. And his dual hat job was director of the company's Advanced Technology Center.
Did he also work on UFO crash retrieval initiatives?
Well, I don't want to say that or confirm or deny that because of the consequence to his family. One of his daughters works there.
Okay, got it.
It could cause her issues. So I can't get into that particular detail.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
Through your, I'm so sorry.
No,
through,
go for
through
it.
your investigations, like, did you ever encounter technical intelligence that you considered high credibility that seemed like it would have had to have come from direct communication with NHI, or did it all seem like it could have been through passive investigation?
I couldn't get to that. There's two things I couldn't.
How many times has he refused to answer questions or name sources so far? Several already. And we're 26 minutes in. He's refused to answer questions several times. Why? Aren't you here for disclosure?
Get into because I didn't have access. I didn't have the right clearances. And I wasn't
an awful lot of excuses too when asked questions for things, right?
Allowed to. Let's put it this way. There are people I was working with who knew who to contact, but they wouldn't give me the contact because they were not allowed to give out the name and organizational office or program that the individual worked at. And so they were not allowed to share that with me. So I couldn't get into the NHI issue. I couldn't get into the alien or NHI contact issue.
The fact that Ryder...
So he wasn't able to get into the NHI, non-human intelligence issue. But he just testified in front of Congress that there are 4 alien species visiting Earth. But then he caveated saying, people have said or people have told me. So what is this guy just repeating stories from other wackadoos? Troll with one for the goal, saying, all right, Amber broke up the 50% mark and YW for the t-shirt. I think you're talking about my Ask Me About My Butthole shirt. By the way, I got in a lot of trouble with my son because I had this shirt on and he was concerned that I was going to pick him up from the school bus with a shirt that said, Ask Me About My Butthole. So I had to put another shirt on to pick him up from the bus today. But thank you, Troll, our oldest and longest supporter. Very, very kind and generous of you. We appreciate you, Troll. Thanks for appreciating us. And then we have Rotary Matrix, another longtime show supporter here with one for the goal and also a member. Respect my dude, love your spunk. And the NIDS guy is a total fucking clown show, fruitcake, knob jockey, idiot puppet of the system. WTF. I agree with you 100%. Bob Bigelow's a nut job. He's a billionaire. He's put a lot of money into this stuff. And he also illegally took files, confidential files from MUFON. He bought files where people gave their reports of alien abduction or whatever, and they were told when they were giving those reports that they would be completely confidential. And then Bob Bigelow bought those files. Great. And MUFON sold out confidential files for cash. So there's that. Yeah, what if? The conspiracy runs deep. That is right. Let's continue here.
Essentially said, we'd have no idea how this works. Does that imply to you they never had they never had the ability to ask questions of someone with full knowledge of the technology? Did you ever make that connection?
No, I think Dave Grush was able to make that connection. I couldn't.
When you're on Age of Disclosure and you are...
So he couldn't even make connection with somebody that could talk about the programs that they were working on. And he never met anybody that firsthand worked on the programs. You notice the problems with all of this? Like I said, it's like one big game of telephone.
Saying sort of confidently that Roswell had, a certain number of beings. One of the beings probably survived. Is
that I don't know.
Okay.
That's a point of information I have never gotten in any of my official government interviews. Or even unofficial off-the-record interviews, is that any of these aliens ever lived. This is coming from a different avenue, and I don't recall Dave Grush telling me that was the case. I won't dismiss offhand. It's just that it's not a piece of data that ever came.
Oh, he doesn't want to go that far. Don't worry. When the next documentary comes around, he'll be saying we did capture a live alien, because that's what people want to hear, right? And he continually, this guy's stories have gotten more sensational as time goes on.
In my way after 30 years.
As part of your official investigations in OSAP, you were making sure that your sources were completely uncorrelated, right? They weren't speaking to each other.
Oh yeah,
behind
well
closed doors.
they wouldn't be able to because they were in compartmentalized programs.
Yeah.
And we had compartmentalized clearances ourselves, so we could only talk to them at a certain level. And even we could not get special access program clearance because the VP of Lockheed Martin, there was a VP of TRW before it got bought out by Northrop Grumman. These guys, they may know about each other, but they're not read in on each other's programs, because that's what compartmentalization meant. It meant that they may know.
This is the stovepiped, everything's so compartmentalized. One hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing. Sure.
About each other through the.
It seems like a convenient excuse.
Through the portfolio
or lack of evidence.
But they're not allowed to communicate because of that compartmentalization. And so where was I going? I think I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Well, tell me about George H.W. Bush, Bush 41.
Well, that's separate. That's separate.
Another dead guy. Let's say another dead guy said some things, did some things, ran some things.
Yeah, totally separate. But yeah, just wanted to ask you about your interactions with him, because it seemed like from your accounting, he wasn't fully aware of the UFO crash retrieval program, but he became aware of it through some interesting.
Well, he became Gerald Ford's CIA director.
Mm-hmm.
So Gerald Ford became president. He nominated Bush, and Bush got confirmed, and he became the CIA director. So he goes into this for his first briefing as director of the CIA. The first thing that came out of this briefer's mouth was the Holloman landing in April 1964 at Holloman.
Holloman is a completely and totally debunked UFO story. And the long famous footage, right? Purported footage of an alien spaceship coming down out of the sky and landing at Holloman Air Force Base. It was an F-4 Phantom with a light on it. We previously covered that. So here he is citing a completely debunked fake UFO case that's not a UFO case. We know that it was an airplane in the famous video of the purported Holloman landing. And here he is saying George Bush was briefed about a completely fake UFO case. This just blows his credibility to shit. And I wish I had the video. We're probably going to do a part 2 of this interview, so I'll dig up the debunk of the Holloman. I may be able to find it on the fly here, but we'll continue for now. He's saying that George Bush was briefed about George Bush Sr. was briefed about a completely fake UFO landing. That was an airplane.
Air Force Base in New Mexico. So he started briefing Bush on that. And Bush said, "What are you talking about? I've never heard of this before."
Describe what this is for the audience.
So to make a long story short, 3 UFO craft came in. One of them landed not on the runway, but on the tarmac close to a hangar. The other 2 took off.
14 of 20 for
the gangway came down. Extended down, and down comes a humanoid looking, very tall NHI being. He looked of Northern European descent. So he goes and meets with them, and they go into that hangar. And that hangar turned out to be the equivalent back in those days of a special access program hangar. It's all secured. They've got guards around it. That's the end of the story. So this film was made of it. And this story has circulated at various times. The Defense Audiovisual Agency, under the command of 2 retired generals, I think Jerry Miller was the name of one of them. I don't remember the name of the other. Jacques Vallée talks about them in his book Revelations, I think it is. And he and Alan Hynek were invited to go to the DAVA and see that film, get access to the film and see it. So they got...
Yeah, and they never saw the film. They saw a very short clip, which I'm about to show you, that's purported to be from that film, that recent debunking efforts have shown to be an airplane. So this guy is, this lunatic is saying George Bush was briefed about an alien landing at Holloman Air Force Base, right? Yeah. Not so fast. The Holloman data. Brand new information about the alleged footage of a UFO landing at Holloman Air Force Base. And we're going to cite fair use once again.
Holloman UFO landing footage. I've been fascinated with this ever since I first learned about it, and I thought now might be a good time to make this video and share some new data I've uncovered. First off, a
This is the alien landing that Eric Davis is talking about, the footage.
quick bit of backstory for those who might be new to the topic. In 1974, a documentary was released.
All right, let's just get to the debunk. The story is ridiculous. One moment. I'm sorry, I didn't have this queued up and ready to go. Okay, here we go. We'll take it from here.
And that it wasn't some prototype military test footage shot at another base or footage of another event altogether. Nailing down the location was important, but as you can see, there really wasn't much information to work with in those 9 seconds.
Yeah, the people that have been promoting this UFO story for decades screwed themselves because they put out a new version of the documentary this originally appeared in, and it was remastered with much more clarity.
However, I eventually zeroed in on a few distinctive features of the mountains in the background. Most notably, this shape, which looked sort of like a seagull to me. And then over here is something that looks sort of like a snake with horns. Yeah, I don't know, it's just how my brain works. Now, could these same features be located on Google Earth? I mean, surely geological formations like this wouldn't have changed too much in the last half century, right? I dove into the program and began analyzing.
By the way, this is an excellent debunk. This guy geolocated the exact location where the footage was taken.
In the landscape around the base, and I quickly realized exactly what I was up against. There's just a ridiculous amount of land out there. By years that I scoured nearly 150 miles of mountainside looking for these features. And I was just about to give up when all of a sudden, the needle in the haystack. There was the seagull shape. And there's the snake with horns. And looking closely, you can see other shapes that line up as well. Turns out the mountain was, in fact, directly across from Holloman Air Force Base. Not
right, so we know the footage was taken near or at Holloman.
In the direction of White Sands, as I had originally assumed, but instead 12 miles in the opposite direction, just beyond the town of Alamogordo. The peak seen in the background of the landing shot is called Hirschberger Peak, part of the Sacramento mountain range. So I had confirmed that the footage was indeed...
And by the way, this video, if you want to find it yourself, is called The Holloman Landing, New Data. Please do support this person who found this information.
Filmed in the vicinity of Holloman Air Force Base, but something didn't seem to add up. Now that I knew which mountain was visible in the background of the shot, it looked like the craft was coming down in the heart of Alamogordo, a city with a population of nearly 30,000 people at the time. Wouldn't some of these people have noticed the craft? Something was off.
Especially an alien spaceship, but what if it was a common occurrence that it was just a military airplane?
Was there anything else I could determine about where the camera was or where the craft might have landed? I scrubbed through the footage again, moving slowly, one frame at a time. And in the tail end of the sequence, I found another detail in the lower right corner. There appeared to be a 2-lane asphalt road not far from the camera. Could I locate this feature on the map? I began by moving backward from the mountain and scanning the landscape, looking for anything that matched what I saw in the corner of the shot. Really, the only thing that seemed to be in roughly the correct place was Highway 70.
We're going to scrub through
3D perspective within Google Earth had the effect of stretching the distance, making the background look much farther away than it was in reality. Both of these resulted in a visual mismatch between what I was seeing in the film and what I was seeing in Google Earth. Now I was getting excited though. I had not only confirmed that the shot had been filmed at Holloman, but I had dramatically narrowed down the actual camera location. But as I looked at the images, something quickly became apparent to me. Several details in the landing shot weren't just similar to those in the reenactment, they were identical. And as a growing realization began to wash over me, I took the two images and overlaid them one on top of the other. And just as I suspected, they lined up perfectly. Too perfectly. Every spot of vegetation on the ground, the dashed lines on the runway, details of the mountain in the background, all identical. This rigid alignment could only have been possible if the shots had been taken from the exact same spot in space. not simply within the same area of the base, but literally from the exact same spot. And there's essentially zero likelihood that the landing footage would have been shot from one specific point, and then years later this exact same spot would have been randomly chosen for the reenactment scenes. The implication of this, I feel, is pretty clear. The two shots, the landing shot and the shot of the jets taking off, were filmed on the same day from a tripod-mounted camera. The camera operator could zoom in and out and pan and tilt, but the location of the tripod and camera remained fixed. When we consider the simple fact that the landing shot is part of a long sequence of reenactment shots, and that every shot before and after it was filmed specifically for the documentary, it really shouldn't come as a surprise if the landing shot also turns out to be a recreation. I think
there we go, recreation.
It's worth pointing out that the filmmakers themselves never claimed that any portion of the mysterious footage made it into their documentary, and that the film was confiscated before they could watch it or do anything with it. And there is actually evidence from the 1970s showing that even after the documentary came out, they were still trying to determine if the footage had actually ever existed in the first place. It's really only been other people who weren't involved at all,
yes, UFO promoters who promoted this,
looking back decades after the event, who have decided that the shot must have been from the original film. And that definitely would have been more exciting. It just turns out to not be true. But if the shot isn't part of the legendary lost film, what does it actually show descending from the sky? What was coming in to land at Holloman that day? Well, I'm happy to say I can answer this somewhat definitively.
Again, Dr. Eric Davis is telling everybody on a huge podcast that George Bush was briefed about this Holloman Air Force landing.
I recently acquired a copy of the officially released 2007 DVD of the documentary. Prior to this, I had been working from a fairly low-quality transfer of the VHS release from the 90s, the same version that can be found posted in various places online. This DVD, however, was a game changer.
Yeah, look how much clearer the DVD remastered version is.
Though technically not a high-definition format, it was clearly sourced from a clean, high-quality master, and the increase in detail was substantial. I quickly fast-forwarded to the landing footage and was momentarily stunned by what that extra detail revealed. It's a plane. The details are faint, but the wings and landing gear are unmistakable. The YouTube compression might completely obliterate the details here, so I'm going to let it play a few times while I tweak the settings on the footage. It won't be pretty, but I'm hoping one of these combinations will help.
It's clearly an airplane with a light on the front of it.
The wings and the landing gear survive the compression process. Now, you may be wondering, what is the round white glowing thing? And that's a good question. My first instinct was that the film was being run in reverse, and that what we're actually seeing are the plane's afterburners as it flies away from us. But the landing gear is clearly down, and if the plane was heading away from us, the landing gear would have already been stowed. So it's likely coming in for a landing rather than taking off. Now, we know the base had F-4s at the time, so it's logical to wonder if the incoming plane might also be a Phantom. And as shown in this footage, the F-4 Phantom had an intensely bright light that was sometimes used during landing, strong enough to flare a camera lens even in broad daylight. Is it possible that this light is what we're seeing in the footage?
Oh, it's not only possible, it's probable, at least a lot more probable than this being an alien spaceship.
Well, let's do a quick comparison between the craft in the footage and a photo of an F-4 landing with its light on. It's purely subjective, but that looks like a pretty close match to me.
It looks like an exact match to me.
The wingspan, the width of the landing gear, the placement of the light, the way the nose peeks out above the light, it all seems to line up pretty well. But there's no way to say for certain, and at this point, I don't think the type of plane is very important. What we can now say with a fair degree of certainty is that the landing shot in the documentary is not footage from the fabled Holloman UFO landing film. It was almost certainly a shot of a plane coming in to land at Holloman Air Force Base.
So this is the story that Eric Davis is telling people. Like, oh yeah, George Bush was briefed. He was briefed about this, he was briefed about this alien spaceship that landed at Holloman. You mean the airplane that landed at Holloman? Is that what you mean, Eric Davis? It's totally ridiculous. Let's get back to Eric Davis telling the Holloman story. Now that we know that the whole Holloman story was based on a lie, based on deceptively created video that is a recreation from the other recreations that were shown in the documentary. Clearly not an alien spaceship, but we're supposed to believe that George Bush, who's dead now and can't refute Eric Davis's claims, was briefed about an alien spaceship that landed at Holloman. These people's stories fall apart with good skepticism.
And apparently they were not allowed to see that video because one of those two generals said that they got intercepted or
nobody ever saw the supposedly real footage of the alien landing. All we've ever seen for years and years and years, people said that landing portion, which we just showed you, was real footage of the alien landing at Holloman. They were able to slip in a few seconds of the original, film.
Somebody got in the middle of that and convinced them not to allow Belay and Hynek to see that film.
You do have this fact pattern over decades of, this sort of luring in of various, UFO researchers and presentation of passage material, which...
Yes, they make good bobos. That's what the CIA calls a useful idiot, a bobo. Let's get this bobo to put this information out. It's happened to Linda Moulton Howe. I firmly believe that it happens to George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell. Every video that they put out is disinformation.
Which is, material that might have some truth in it, but it's also sprinkled with falsities so that, the researchers can be discredited. So why now is there this line in the sand where we should trust that there is this real UFO legacy crash retrieval program going on?
I'm kind of thinking maybe it all began with Kelleher, Knapp, and Lukatsky's first book, Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. I think that started it off. And then Lukatsky did his first book and then out the second book last year. And I think he's got a third one coming out. And then Lou Elizondo's book came out. And so I think this is a crescendo of things that have come together in the right time, the right place, the right people.
Yeah, because the government is scared of 3 books that have no evidence, just stories, blowing over their totally secret alien projects.
And that's why this is happening.
And if you're Stratton and you're hosting, because he was the guy who ran the UAPTF, the UAP task force.
That's right.
And so,
but he also was working with Jim Lukatsky on the OSAP. He was at DIA at the time.
So
I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that. That's
he
interesting.
and Lukatsky are the ones that built the OSAP program together.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just Jim Lukatsky.
Those two were the people that helped waste $22 million studying werewolves. And was it Jay Stratton who said a werewolf? Everybody's got things following them home from the spooky Skinwalker Ranch. Jay Stratton said that a werewolf followed him home from Skinwalker Ranch and was out in his yard one night. And Eric Davis said a poltergeist followed him home and haunted his house. Like, these stories are so stupid and so ridiculous. Why is our government hiring so many wackadoos?
Alone, it was Jim and Jay and their support staff. There's, the DIA and contractor staff that supported them. So Jay was involved with the OSAP from the very beginning.
And then we talked.
Yeah, the same group of people over and over again, wasting the government's money. One more for the goal, says Perfect Harmony, tonight's MVP of support. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. Much, much appreciated. Rocketing towards the goal, we've got Elaine Walls gifting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 True Seekers memberships. Yes, thank you, Elaine Walls. And her, along with Perfect Harmony, have gifted so many memberships tonight that 15 people have won free True Seekers gifted memberships, my friends. 15 people won a free channel membership here. But in order to win a membership, you must be a subscriber. So if you haven't already, smash the subscribe button. It's a huge boost to our channel, and you could win one of these free channel memberships whenever a kind and generous person like Perfect Harmony or Elaine Walls gifts these memberships. You could win one, but you must be a subscriber. So smash that subscribe button before you miss out on another opportunity. I'm sure many more kind and generous friends may give some memberships tonight. Thank you, Elaine Walls, for your kindness, generosity, and support. And Perfect Harmony with another one. Very, very generous of you, Perfect Harmony. Thank you. Another one for the goal. Bobo, like the clown. Yes, that's really a thing. You can, at least I was told by somebody that works for the CIA, that that's called a Bobo. And specifically, I was told that people like Tom DeLonge are Bobos. They're useful idiots that the government can use to put out whatever stories the government wants people focused on. But thank you, Perfect Harmony, for your kindness, generosity, support, and encouragement, and all those free gifted memberships. 10 people. If you got a notification that you got a free gifted membership, you got to either thank Perfect Harmony here or Elaine Walls. Thank you both for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. And we are at 15 of 20 for the goal. And we'll be checking in with the Kick Support and everyone else. I'll also check in with the Buy Me a Beer thing as well tonight. So let's continue. It's a cavalcade of bullshittery. 32
about OSAP, ATIP, these sorts of programs that are, very small dollar amounts, vis-a-vis
$22 million, but
the inflation
Harry
adjusted
Reid-
Manhattan Project.
yeah, Harry Reid had an intention on turning it into a Manhattan Project. He was this was like just to get it started. And then
he's the idiot that gave these clowns, all these clowns we've heard about tonight, that see poltergeists and werewolves everywhere. He's the government senator that gave these clowns $22 million of your money to waste on this shit.
The subsequent fiscal years that would follow, he was intending this to go like maybe a decade worth $1 billion, maybe $2 billion worth of programmatics.
But you were simultaneously saying there is an underlying program that is a legacy reverse engineering program this came after the fact.
And
that has
we
to be.
were trying to get into the crash retrieval program. Our goal was to get after it and co-opt it into the OSAP so we could do what the goals of the OPSAP wanted us to do. And I don't think that was necessarily to bring it out in the public domain. That was to keep it classified anyway. But our job was to get access to it because we were not convinced that there was any progress made. And as a matter of fact, the senior VP at one of the aerospace corporations who I had years worth of interviews with before and after he retired.
Another guy he can't name.
Confirmed that there was no success.
Okay, so an anonymous source said they didn't have any success back engineering the alien spaceships. Maybe they should have brought in some physicists. And you said they didn't have any physicists. None of this makes any sense. This is like the childish, stupid bullshit story that you sit and listen to when some clown sits next to you at a bar, gets too drunk, and starts telling porkies.
In the reverse engineering program after 8 decades, and it just didn't go anywhere. They had modest success, like they understood the materials that craft were made from. They figured out how they were constructed, but we couldn't reproduce any of it. We had no fabrication or manufacturing technology at the time of the crash retrieval programs when they were fully funded and fully operating to figure that out. We could just use our SEM and transmission SEM microscopes and other advanced condensed matter state diagnostic tools and evaluate it, look at it down into the almost nanoscale, and we could see how the materials were assembled, but we could not figure out how to reproduce that process.
If we have made no progress, why aren't we more open with the scientific community?
Well, that's the security aspect of it. I'm not involved with that policy aspect. And I don't have contact with the people that make the policy on that, so I can't answer that.
But you are.
It's not that I don't want to. I just don't.
No. I get it. And you're saying confidently that there are billion-dollar budgets involved in the actual core UFO legacy.
I don't know that it's that much. It was on that order from my interviews with TRW and Lockheed Martin people. That was the order of magnitude of the budget expenditures that were given, not on an annual basis, but it was more like maybe over a 5 to 10 year period. But then the budget would go up and down, just like NASA's budget would go up and down. So the budgets would go up, and they'd be flush with money. Get a few more people in, get some better equipment in the lab, and then the budget gets cut, and they got to go to bare minimum operation. People get laid off and whatever.
I wanted to ask you, there's this sort of not even lore. There is a document called the Wilson Davis memo. You get asked about it all the time. It's kind of apocryphal meeting that occurred between you and
like
Admiral Thomas Wilson.
UFOs or something.
That's right.
The lost gospel of the Bible.
You are famous for your meticulous note taking, and apparently,
again, Jesse Michels, before showing your huge audience this so-called memo about a meeting that Eric Davis has with Admiral Tom Wilson, don't you think it would be at least, ethical or moral to tell your audience that the admiral involved with these notes that supposedly told Eric Davis all this stuff called this a work of fiction? Don't you think that would be like something that your audience should know?
Currently, this meeting took place in the EG&G parking lot, and it is this, admiral who is head of J2 Joint Chiefs.
He was retired at the time.
He was retired at the time.
He got called back into active duty for a short period of time because he had to close out a project at Area 51 that he was responsible for under his office at the DIA that he initiated. And it was a complicated project. He couldn't tell me because I didn't have that kind of level of access or anything like that. So he all I know is he said, I'm back because I've got to go back up into that. He wouldn't say Area 51. I knew what he was talking about. He was saying, he used the word back in those days, the undeclared or unacknowledged facility near the Nevada test site. Okay. And you have to go back there because they needed to close out a major project he initiated when he was active duty DIA director. And so he was willing to meet with me at the behest of two guys at the National Nuclear Security Agency that I personally knew. John Alexander and I knew them. We were all members of the Association of Former Intelligence Officers. We were forming,
which Doty is also a member of, and this John Alexander wackadoo is also a member of,
a Las Vegas chapter in 2002. So these guys were in Las Vegas because one of them is the director of intelligence at the NNSA site in Vegas, in Nevada, and the other one was the director of counterintelligence And then
notice keeps dropping all of this, like, I know all these important intelligence people. Intelligence people, especially counterintelligence people, are professional liars. I don't think that's a coincidence that he knows a lot of professional liars.
Site as well.
And so at least formerly, Wilson was supposed to have all military tech under his purview, under his scope. And he's expressing a lot of frustration to you, right? That he's just met with this private.
Jesse states this all as fact. Admiral Wilson said that all these notes were a work of fiction. It was a science fiction story. And that meeting that Eric Davis apparently took notes from never took place. And he's not saying this meeting you allegedly had. He's saying this meeting you had. Like, he's stating everything from the Wilson documents as if it's fact. There's undeniable proof that this is not fact because the guy involved, the major character, said that this is a work of fiction and the meeting never took place. I think that's an important fact that Jesse Michels just fails to tell his audience.
Corporation.
And this is back in 97.
This is in 97.
The summer of 97.
And he's saying there's this team of people in the hundreds of people, and they have this material that doesn't seem to be of human origin and progress.
Again, stating all of this as this factually happened.
This is sort of slow and cumbersome, but that he, for whatever reason, wasn't supervising or overseeing it, even though he should have been.
It's that they claim he didn't have need to know, and that's possible. Their budget came from his. In other words, their funding came from his director's budget, the budget he gets as a director.
I would think that the director, finding out that money is being taken from his purview, does have a need to know where that money is going and what it's being used for. This is another glaring inconsistency and a ridiculous, nonsensical explanation for this shit.
This was DIA money that he wasn't aware of. He wasn't aware because this is a WUSAP. He hadn't been read in on it. And
I love the acronyms.
So when you deal with budget line items for these things, they're just innocuous budget codes that a comptroller general of the Defense Department or the military services or the U.S. government understands how to read a budget code. And then
but a director of all military programs doesn't know how to read it.
Standard plain English description is deliberately meant
Pretty sure he has somebody on his staff that works in accounting that could tell him.
to be vague, so you can't identify it. That way, if the budget document gets captured by espionage assets from foreign nations, foreign adversaries, they won't understand what the hell it is. So all they're going to see is something they may or may not even know how to interpret, and some innocuous words. And this could be as innocuous as aerospace technology review, or well, let's look at the OSAP, Advanced Aerospace Weapons Systems Application Program. It could be something similar to that, or of that nature. You'll see something of that nature. It doesn't say UFO, alien, off-world. You know, it doesn't give you any clue or indication as to what it is. It's meant for that reason, is to keep our enemies off the track, to be able to figure out what we're spending our money on and where. Wilson didn't know that because he didn't have any to know, just like a president in the United States really doesn't have any to know about the crash retrieval program, because mostly they have to know to ask about it. And when they ask, that's an order from him that somebody lower down needs to give him a briefing. But if he already doesn't know, he doesn't know to ask.
What happened when Jimmy Carter got briefed?
This is another fake story that's been debunked. We're up to 2 totally debunked stories. 3, if you count the Wilson Davis notes. Eric Davis has so far talked about 3 completely debunked stories. The Holloman Air Force landing, which we showed you was an airplane. He's talked about the Wilson Davis notes. Admiral Wilson said that's a work of fiction. Now he's going to tell you another porky about a dead man that can't refute his story. And this is a famous story that Jimmy Carter once got briefed about aliens, and he hung his head and he cried in the Oval Office. And this story has been debunked as false.
I don't know what the aftermath is, but I know that Alonzo McDonald confirmed to several of us that in our group during that era, the OSAP era.
Imagine that guy's dead now too. Can't fact check this one. How many dead people is he going to cite as sources in one interview?
That he talked to the staff that attended that briefing. He talked to Carter, and it happened. He even sent us the June, I don't remember the date in June, but I've got the document, but it's June 1977. It was an economic meeting in the National Security Council meeting rooms. But then when it came time for this classified UAP or UFO program briefing, they moved it to the Oval Office.
Do you know what the nature of the meeting was?
Yeah, what we popularly known as Project Aquarius. And so I know that
all they did was
Alonzo did not dispute that was the code name. It might not have been, but it might have been. But he said this was it. This is the real deal. This really happened. And by the way, I got from the Carter Library the attendee list for that date. And it shows the name of the regular meeting for the Economic Something Council, because that's what Alonzo McDonald's job is at the White House. So
is that public information?
The names of the people that attended were there. The only thing is 2 names and organizations were redacted. Out of all the lists on 2 pages, only 2 got redacted.
Can you send me that?
Say again?
Can you send me that with the redactions? Obviously,
I can send that.
That would be amazing.
So basically, Alonzo confirmed that it happened. He was then
a meeting happened.
Principal staff director of the White House staff. I think that was the title back then. Before that, he was Jimmy Carter's special representative for trade, I think, to the United Nations. So he had something like an ambassador level title.
Do you know anything that transpired in the meeting itself as far as?
Well, he Carter named on that list, and he asked him what transpired. Carter told him, and the guys who attended told him. And they said, we learned that the United States government has been in contact with aliens, UFO beings.
Yeah. By the way, from a quick Google, Jimmy Carter never confirmed receiving a briefing on alien technology or Project Aquarius, whatever that is, maintaining that UFOs are simply unidentified phenomenon rather than extraterrestrial spacecraft. While he reported a personal 1969 sighting of a color-changing light, he believed these were more likely military experiments, and that 1969 sighting of his was debunked as ordinary earthly objects. The Aquarius claim, many in the UFO community claim that Carter was briefed on Project Aquarius, a top-secret project allegedly studying aliens, are generally considered part of conspiracy theory lore or have never been verified. So again, This is another debunked story that Eric Davis is spewing about a dead man that can't refute his claims.
Danny Sheehan says Carter's head was. Oh, so continue.
Well, what
Sorry.
he does is when
Danny Sheehan, this is the guy who's selling expensive courses right now where you can get a degree in ufology for like $10,000. He's about as credible as a crackhead. Anybody noticing a pattern? All the people that Eric Davis is talking about and associated with are basically just wackadoos like him.
he's in a moment of stress or something that's really critical. Alonzo told us that Jimmy or President Carter has a habit of putting his head down on his table like this and praying. This is how he prays on his desk.
He heard about the aliens and he started praying.
So that's what he was doing.
Look at Weinstein. He's just sitting there like, I can't believe this level of horse shit. Where's Spooky? We got to get Spooky to re-edit this whole 4 hours with like thought bubbles from Weinstein. Like horse shit. Bull.
He was just praying. And he was praying about the consequence of this information that he just now learned. What its consequence to American society is, and maybe to the United States government and our defense of our country against an unknown potential hostile, we don't know, force that we don't have a technology to overwhelm.
Did he learn about? Have we had treaties or agreements with any of these beings?
That I've never heard about. No, that never came up.
Okay.
I don't recall. I've seen the Aquarius document. Alonzo said it was real.
Yeah,
People have been saying for years that was fabricated by Bill Moore and Doty. And Michels said those guys had nothing to do with anything. That document, and by the way, I don't think you can find that document on the internet unless you use the Wayback Machine nowadays. It used to be available as late as 2010 or 11, and then it's just gone. So Alonzo read every word of the Aquarius briefing, and he said, "Oh yeah, that's what these guys told me that they did. The guys in the briefing got together afterwards, went to a motel, and they basically wrote down from memory what they recalled about the briefing, because they each got briefing documents. When the briefing is orally given, they're reading through it. Then when the briefing's over, they got to give the document back to the CIA guy at the door that gave them the documents, because they're going to be destroyed."
Where's what they wrote down from memory? Where are those documents?
Well, that's the thing. Those are gone.
Okay.
So I'll get to that. So
how do you know they're
the
gone?
White House gets a copy, permanent copy for their records. So that's in a really heavily classified part of the Carter Library, I believe, maybe. And then the CIA keeps a copy because that's their program.
Okay, so this is why we can't see these notes that he's talking about. More notes bullshit.
Okay, so these guys had...
I'm waiting for Weinstein to chime in like, what are you talking about, man?
8 by 14 inch.
20 minutes of Eric Davis, and he sounds like a rambling lunatic, to be honest.
Legal pads. And they all meet up in a hotel, and they all start downpouring from memory what they think what they recall of the briefing document. So they did a round robin. So everybody passes their document to the next guy, so forth and so on, all the way around. And so they're going to cross-check what they remember against the other guy's notes. And they're going to keep doing this until they find, they're going to disagree on what was said on this little point of this language.
This is just lunacy. This is just insanity.
In this,
are you allowed to read a classified briefing document and then just make notes and share it with all your other friends that got the same briefing? I don't know. This doesn't sound right to me.
Terminology and whatnot. They're going to keep doing that until they finally converge on a document that strongly resembles the briefing document that they all read. And they all agree on it. And they said, yeah, this is more close to what we read. And we collectively, came to this convergent final version. So somebody typed that up on a old fashioned electrothermal printer. And
the Aquarius documents, by the way, are a hoax.
That's what you see in the photographs that Bill Moore took of that document.
Okay.
And it was said that the Senior Falcon was somebody else. I know his name. I just can't think of it, but it's in one of my investigations.
Why do all these guys have bird names?
Because of the aviary. God, Jesse Michels, you do this for a living. You don't know what the aviary is. You don't know about UFOs live. And
I don't
Richard
know.
Doty?
That's just the choice of an admiral at the DIA. Who
Okay.
that. Nothing to do with the aviary. Aviary is more in the 1990s conspiracy era, or
Okay.
maybe the late 80s even. Or
Okay.
is
No, that's where it came from. It didn't come from the government, you asshole.
No, this is.
It came from Bill Moore and Richard Doty and a bunch of old UFO profiteering scumbags.
Senior Falcon was a DIA officer who was sent to communicate with Jamie Shandera and Bill Moore. He was the one that passed undeveloped 35 millimeter film of the so-called MJ-12 documents. These are the first generation documents that were created by James Jesus Angleton's Chop Shop, his mole hunting document production factory. So
I got to stop him again, because how many hoaxes has he talked about now? The Jimmy Carter briefing hoax, the Holloman Air Force Base hoax, the Wilson Davis hoax, and now he's talking about the Aquarius documents or briefings, which, again, a quick Google, often associated with the Majestic 12 conspiracy theories, are considered an elaborate hoax by researchers, the FBI, and government investigators. These documents, which appeared in the 1980s, alleged a secret government project to study extraterrestrial life and technology. Failed authentication. The FBI declared the MJ-12 documents completely bogus after investigating their origins. Signature forgery. Experts found that the signature of the president on the document was likely photocopied from a different, genuine letter. Formatting errors. Lack of provenance. Intentional hoaxing. Former Air Force Office of Special Investigations agent Richard Doty admitted to feeding fabricated information to UFO researchers in the 1980s, including documents that filled the Aquarius MJ-12 myth. Purpose: these actions were part of a broader mirage intended to protect classified aerial technologies. Misinterpreted informations. Real projects, wrong name. The name Aquarius may have been loosely inspired by or confused with a legitimate but mundane or differently classified program. Bogus context. Summary: the Aquarius documents are largely recognized as a 1980s hoax, partly driven information campaigns aimed at protecting classified defense secrets. So there's another. How many hoaxes is this guy going to talk about? Do you have any real cases that you want to talk about, Eric Davis? Or are you just going to keep repeating? This whole thing so far has been Eric Davis repeating known UFO disinformation psychological operations, known hoaxes, known fake stories, like the Holloman Air Force landings. How many fake stories is this guy going to recount as true or real? And he's an expert? He's such an expert he doesn't know that these are fucking hoaxes? He's a moron! All right, let's continue.
That's the connection there, is that these documents came from the Defense Intelligence Agency. It was the Directorate of Human Intelligence Collection. And Admiral E.A. Burkhalter, Edward Burkhalter, was the director. And Air Force Colonel Roy Jonkers was his chief of staff. So those documents came out of there. Well, this whole thing about the films, the undeveloped rolls of 35 millimeter film that would go to Bill Moore and Jamie Shandera, that was what that was about. Rick Doty was considered to be the junior Falcon, but he was not a legitimate mediator of information.
And many people think that he wrote and hoaxed the MJ-12 documents and had a big laugh about it. In fact, people were able to track some of the, let's just say, typeface to a typewriter that he himself owned or had in his possession at an office that he worked at. The exact typewriter Doty had somehow typed these MJ-12 documents in 1947 or 49. I don't remember the exact provenance of the date that the MJ-12 and Aquarius documents were supposed to come from.
From the DIA to Bill Moore. He was more coming out of AFOSI as a counterintelligence agent, trying to throw him off the track.
Let's just keep it high level, I guess.
He's very good at just recounting UFO mythology, but most of this UFO mythology has been proven fraudulent, fake, hoaxes, and bullshit. So what real information did Eric Davis offer so far? And you know, I kind of feel sad and angry for Weinstein, who's a serious mathematician, is sitting here listening to this shit. And I'm wondering, does Weinstein know what I've just shared with you? That Eric Davis, so far into this interview, has recounted the Wilson Davis notes, which are largely considered a hoax and refuted by the main character in them, Admiral Tom Wilson, as a work of fiction. Does Weinstein know that he's recounting a story about Jimmy Carter that has been largely refuted as a hoax? Does he know that he's talking about completely and totally fake documents, like the MJ-12 documents, proven fake documents, Aquarius documents, proven fake documents, as real government documents? Does Weinstein know all of that? I don't think that Weinstein is in that deep into the UFO history and mythology. He needs somebody to tell him, because imagine if Weinstein knew what I've just told all of you and shown you with proof. The Holloman landing, it was a fucking airplane. What if Weinstein knew that everything that Eric Davis has said so far, 45 minutes into this interview, or most of it, has been citing dead sources, citing UFO fake history and mythology that has been proven to be mythology and fake fictitious stories? What if Weinstein knew all that when he got a chance to do his rebuttal? This would have gone much, much better, in my opinion.
So you have Roswell in 47. You have Magenta before that in Italy, but then this craft crashes there.
Magenta is another proven hoax. So now Jesse Michels is adding another hoax onto the list of hoaxes that Davis has. You know, he's supposed to be here talking about the evidence that he has. That's what Eric Davis is supposed to be doing here, sitting with a real scientist, giving the best evidence that he has. And so far, all he has is hoaxes. And Jesse Michels throwing another hoax into the pile. Great.
And that gets transferred to U.S. possession.
Mm-hmm.
And then how many other crashes between the 30s and today?
I can't give you the official number because I know that number on a classified basis.
The same person involved in the Trinity hoax, that's another proven hoax, was involved in the Magenta hoax. Imagine that.
I could say it's less than 40.
Okay, less than 40. I think Hal Puthoff said on the Joe Rogan Experience somewhere like we have between 10 and 15 crafts in our possession.
He said 15. I think he said more than 10, but that's still
more than 10. Okay, got it.
We have more than 10 crashed alien spaceships. Great. Can we see one? Well, no, it's classified. Did you see one? Well, no, but people told me that they worked on it. Who? Like Bob Lazar? Like, who are you using for your sources?
More than 10. I'll just say less than 40.
Would you
would
you describe the majority as wreckage or intact?
Mix.
An even mix. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And not all of them involve recovery of NHI bodies.
Dr. Davis, what gives you confidence that we haven't made progress with any of this material?
I can't speak of
Again,
my confidence level after my senior VP source died, because before then I'm highly confident because he was still connected in. He was still on active duty work up until he got retired in the early 2010s. Then he's retired after that, so he's sharing with me the information that he had all the way.
Again, it's a dead man as a source,
and so I'm highly confident at 100% level that what he told me is right. And as a matter of fact, he arranged for me to meet one of his coworkers on the crash retrieval program back in the 70s and 80s.
Did you meet them?
Oh yeah, it was a woman. I met her. My source, his wife.
He said in the beginning of this that he never spoke to anybody who worked directly for the crash retrieval programs. He only spoke to program managers that confirmed the existence of the program. Now he's changed his story, and now he's talking directly to people who worked in the crash retrieval program. Again, a glaring inconsistency. I got to make a supercut of him saying he never spoke to people in the beginning. He said, I never spoke to anybody that actually worked on the craft with firsthand knowledge. I spoke to program managers who confirmed the existence of the programs for me. And again, if these are such classified, does anybody know what a USAP is? It's an unacknowledged special access project. That means you can't even confirm the existence of it To do so would lose your clearance. Who's risking losing their government clearance to tell this wackadoo that the government's working on alien spaceships? And if it's so secret, you can't confirm even the existence of the program. Even when asked under oath, why are they telling Eric Davis about this? None of this makes any sense. Thanks, Storm Crow, who's a longtime show supporter. Stormcrow's a big fan of one of my new projects, which is building a bird sanctuary at my cabin. We've got something like 20 bird feeders. Hopefully we'll be seeing a lot of ravens and crows, one of my favorite birds, Stormcrow. He says, one for the hoax goal, but we thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. It is much, much appreciated. Thank you, Stormcrow, for your long-term support, long-time show supporter. Big support tonight. Amber Gedden says, I like how they call aliens non-human intelligence. I've seen many an animal that is very intelligent. They would classify that as non-human intelligence because they're not human. Yeah, bugs. Bugs are non-human intelligence. Bacteria are non-human. They're trying to give themselves an out, I think, right? So glaring inconsistencies here.
Took me to her home, picked her up. We went into San Jose to have dinner at a German restaurant.
How many of those people, crash retrieval program people, have you met total?
Okay, so I think it's 5 total.
Okay.
5 total at that one, at that particular company.
How many have you met total in your life?
It was just those 2 from that company and 1 from TRW.
Okay. Wow.
Did you meet many of the 40 of Dave Grush's firsthand witnesses?
Say again?
Did you meet many of the 40 of Dave?
I didn't even know who they are, really. He never shared that with me.
I see.
I have a rough guess, but believe me.
I thought he pointed Dave Grush to the witnesses that Dave Grush claimed that he interviewed, those 40 firsthand whistleblowers. And again, in the beginning of this, he said he never talked to anybody that worked directly for the crash retrieval programs. He only spoke with program managers. Now he's saying he met 3 people that worked directly at, I suppose, Lockheed Martin and TRW that worked for the crash retrieval programs. And, you know, if you worked on secret projects at any place like Lockheed Martin or TRW, Northrop Grumman, and then you retire or you quit or you sign NDAs, you're not allowed to talk about anything you worked on, but somehow we're supposed to believe this. Come on. And why can't he name any of these people? And why are so many of the people that he is attributing things to dead? Could it be so that we can't fact check him? But I'll try.
Don't confuse that 40 with the 40 core people on the task force, on UAP task force. They're not
totally different. Yeah.
They're totally different. There's no overlap.
No, that makes, I would hope that there's no overlap.
Yeah, I don't think Dave was allowed to tell me the names of those people or their organizations and where they're located because that was WSAP level.
Yeah. Final question before I want to get into the second section of this discussion where I want you to drive mostly. But how did Admiral Thomas Wilson react when you met him in 1997, and why? I guess why did people direct him to you? And then what transpired in the meeting?
Okay, I can't confirm or deny that we met for the security reasons.
Okay,
there are legal issues still involved that are active. So
refusing to answer
because I can't reveal that in public. That wasn't meant for
hiding behind NDAs and it's classified. Anytime any of these clowns get into a question that they really don't want to go on the record, they just cite NDAs or say it's classified or I can't talk about that. And again, Arrow released a document which stated categorically there are no UAP or UFO specific NDAs anywhere in the United States government. But yet these guys constantly claim that they can't talk about it. It's classified.
Public consumption. And that was Michels' estate.
Mm-hmm.
And that was supposed to be destroyed 1 year after Mitchell got a copy of it as a courtesy from who generated it. And unfortunate that his kids were sloppy and I guess Ed was sloppy in that he didn't give any instructions on what to do with that document if he should die, but he was supposed to destroy that as far as I understand.
I would be remiss if I didn't. This can be cut if it's not okay to air, but during our discussion in San Francisco, you did confirm that you wrote the Wilson Davis notes by way of a conversation about
I can confirm they're
seeking
real.
legal counsel.
Yeah, they're real, th're legit, they're 100% accurate.
Okay, thank you.
But that's the typewritten version.
To the Admiral.
that there's a handwritten version, but that's all I can say about it. So
have you ever seen a UFO?
oh yeah, my wife and I did in Tucson, Arizona, broad
Yeah, and
daylight,
he
a
saw
boomerang shaped
poltergeists
craft below
too. He
traffic
followed him
pattern
home from
altitude.
Skinwalker Ranch.
Looked kind of like halfway boomerang, halfway boot heel type shape, but it was close.
Have you ever seen a craft in a hangar?
No.
Have you
I
ever,
wish. I wanted to.
have you ever seen any one-of-one material? So idiosyncratic, never seen before material.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So
the arts
he has
parts
no
don't
firsthand
qualify.
knowledge.
Okay.
We don't
Okay.
know what the provenance
Great. He saw
of
a
that is.
UFO once.
And Hal and I were involved in
millions
the
of other people.
TTS meeting at the Pentagon conference room in August of 2024, where we read the full 90-page ORNL. That's the office Oak Ridge National Laboratory. Their 90-page materials analysis report on the arts parts. And there was nothing there. There was no there. There's a little bit of ambiguity, because here's the ambiguity. The way that material was...
Now he's citing another complete hoax. Arts parts, ordinary earthly metals, pieces from a metal casing, or excuse me, a missile casing from the 1950s. That's what arts parts actually was after analysis by the United States government Aero program. And that's what TTSA was hyping up as alien parts when they were scamming investors for money.
So with what we were doing in the 1940s era, when magnesium became a major alloy of interest for the aerospace community. And so that's the ambiguity. But the isotope ratios of the materials it contains are Earth. They're manufactured.
Part of what I love about you is you are a walking compendium of all these exotic, experiments,
Yes.
physics experiments.
So the United States government did an isotopic ratio analysis and put it in a spectrometer, and it came back as normal earthly materials. They know it was materials that came from our solar system. So arts parts completely debunked, fake shit, has nothing to do with Roswell as originally claimed by Linda Moulton Howe, nothing to do with alien spaceships as claimed by To the Stars Academy while they were scamming people for public investment money. And by the way, they took public investment money and never released any findings about that material. It took giving it to the government to actually analyze it and come back normal earthly materials. So how many hoaxes are we up to that he's talked about so far? At least this one he admits was a hoax.
And whenever, anybody gets some sort of anomalous result, you are a great evaluator of that. And you've written a book that I will.
Gotta hawk the book
here called Frontiers of Propulsion Science, where you've comprehensively reviewed a lot of these sort of more exotic, propellantless propulsion sort of, modalities. Have you ever seen an exotic experimental result, or an experimental result that's anomalous, rather, that you believe is real and replicable and not?
No, I wish I did. I haven't.
Really?
Nothing that's ever, breaks.
He works for an exotic propulsion company, Hal Puthoff's company, that's always seeking investor money, right? Earth Tech. And they're going to create free energy and exotic propulsion, but he's never seen anything that works. Stunning admission from a guy who works for a company that I believe, last I checked, is still soliciting public investor money to work on these things, but he's never seen anything that works.
The sort of standard model, or anything?
No, certainly not. No.
Okay.
I just think that the standard model has done an outstanding job through the avenue of condensed matter theory to come up with some pretty exotic condensed matter states, which have been theoretical curiosities decades ago, and now we've advanced our laboratory technology and condensed matter physics so well that they're being discovered right now. So they're really wonderful exotic states.
When is Weinstein going to talk?
Topological insulators, metamaterials, all kinds of other stuff, like Majorana particles that are supposed to be, I think they're massless, aren't they, Eric?
Well, if you have
the Majorana particles.
If you have a Majorana mass mechanism different from a Dirac mass mechanism, that's only possible if a particle is its own antiparticle.
Yeah, that's right.
Correct.
That's right. But these are not free particles. These are quasi particles because they're quasi particles because they're created by the collective action of the electrons in the semiconductor or condensed matter system.
I want to cede the floor to my former colleague,
Oh, what a finally.
Eric Weinstein.
He's been listening to this bullshit for 54 minutes. Now they're finally going to let him talk.
I appreciate you.
So we're going to have to go a little further into this.
Indulging all my crazy UFO questions. Just wanted to kind of establish a ground truth around Eric Davis's past experience.
Yeah, his past experience is repeating proven hoaxes so far, Jesse Michels, you moron. Ambergeddon with one for the goal, saying hoaxes for everybody. You get a hoax, and you get a hoax, and you get a hoax. Yes, hoaxes for everybody. Praise the cash, Ambergeddon. And thank you for being a member and being a long-time show supporter. We appreciate you. Thanks for appreciating us. Ambergeddon, one for the goal. I will check in with the goal. We're at 17 of 20. 3 to go. Don't you want to see confetti? Are we going to hit the goal, bitch? I'll check in with the kick chat. No, last kick support was an hour ago. Winter Soldier threw a penny at me. Thank you, Winter Soldier, for the kick support. Bye-bye kick paycheck. That was nice for a bunch of months there. I had an extra paycheck, but it seems the kick support is drying up. I know a lot of people think it's just easier, I guess, if you already have a YouTube account and your financial information is in Google Pay. So, but we thank all of you for your support. Troll says, don't make Steven go DSP on you guys. Only 2 more to go. I have to beg and snort first. Yes, troll is correct. I'm going to turn DSP. I'm gonna refuse. I will wage quit this commentary and this debunking of this bullshittery if we don't get 2 more super chats. We thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Now we'll get into Weinstein's thoughts on this cavalcade. Weinstein is not deep enough into the UFO mythology, history, and lore to know that largely Eric Davis just repeated a bunch of UFO mythology, including completely and totally provable hoaxes as his proof, as his baseline for UFO truth. His baseline for UFO truth includes at least 4 hoaxes he's spoken about. Great. Plus arts farts. Arts parts.
One of my favorite comments on our last discussion with Hal Putoff was, now I know what a dog feels like when it watches TV. And so if, this is not for the faint of mind, just so you're aware from, for the audience, this will be a really fun discussion, but
Yeah, fun discussion. You're wasting his time with hoaxes. Elaine Walls with 1 for the goal, saying so close. And thank you, Elaine Walls, for being a member and for your kindness, generosity, and continued support. And Storm Crow with 1 for the goal, saying getting so close. No, I think you're not just getting so close. 20 of 20, goal achieved. So I'm supposed to thank my audience for making it possible. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. All of our show supporters tonight. Yes, we actually hit a goal. I'm going to have to set it at that from now on because that's a reasonable goal, $100 per broadcast, We appreciate your kindness, generosity, and support. Of course, add to that the Kick support, the PayPal support, and one more thing. But I always forget to buy me a coffee, and I apologize. 1 second. I know somebody bought me a beer recently, which I appreciate because the beer money funds are pretty bad. We're into brokey beer territory for real. So Anon bought a beer. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. And before that, someone bought me a beer, and Anon bought me another beer. So thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. And if you'd like to buy me a beer, the instructions for how to do that are in the description of this video or podcast. We call out every single person that buys me a beer. My wife hates that, people buying me a beer. She says, I don't need anybody buying me a beer. I buy enough beer. But she doesn't realize that I buy the beer with the buy me a beer money, right? So thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. All of you big supporters. We'll check in with the Kick support and the PayPal support as well. Please don't show Wilcock in a bikini. Tales of the Sonic Voyage getting us even more. 1 more over the goal. Tales of the Sonic Voyage saying, rock on, True Seekers. Well, thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Longtime show supporter and musician extraordinaire, Tales of the Sonic Voyage. Check out his channel. lots of free music there for you to listen to. He's a crazy person like me, and he's got like albums and albums and albums worth of free music that he's created on YouTube. Go check him out. Thanks for being a member, and thank you for your continued support. Big support from everybody tonight. Thank you all for your kindness. And we'll see how much further into this we're going to get.
Want to get into what we touched on, which is why are there no theoretical physicists on the program? And what do you think is going on? How do you think maybe what we've talked about with the observables of UFOs might dovetail with some of your theories?
Okay, well, I don't even know how to begin this. I mean, look, the first thing.
He doesn't even know how to begin. You guys just made me listen to 45 minutes of hoaxes and bullshit and UFO mythology that's all unproven nonsense. How do I even begin? Let's see.
Is that in general, I can produce too many explanations through a creative, sometimes undisciplined mind for a certain set of facts. And this is one of the only times, and perhaps the only time, I've ever seen a situation where I cannot come up with a single theory of what's going on that explains all of the bizarre behavior in UFO UAP land. Too many people who seem relatively reasonable with nearly eidetic memories talking about particular names, dates. It is impossible to me that we have a theater company that has figured out how to create this space opera.
Yeah, unless, Mr. Weinstein, you understand that UFOs is $1 billion industry. And that's a verifiable fact. If you add up all the money from book sales, documentary films, television shows, live speaking fees, right? Insider, podcasts, clickbait merchants all over the internet, it is verifiably $1 billion industry. So with $1 billion, you don't think $1 billion of gainable funds out there that people aren't willing to just push nonsense? Mr. Weinstein, you just sat there for 45 minutes and you have no idea that Eric Davis just shoveled nothing but bullshit onto the table. When he's sitting directly in front of you, he just spent 45 minutes shoveling complete and total horseshit, bullshit at you. And he has no verifiable proof for anything that he just said. 45 minutes of recounting long disproven UFO stories from the past, including multiple hoaxes. So I know you can't explain it, but maybe you could explain it better if you knew the history of this thing more accurately. And if you knew that Eric Davis just shoveled hoaxes onto the table in front of you as his baseline proof of the UFO reality.
And on the other hand, the lack of anything tangible. I don't believe in something this old, this long, this many events, that we have absolutely nothing to go on. So let me just say from the beginning that
Eric Davis just showed you there's lots of hoaxes and fake stories, and citing dead people said things to explain a lot of this.
This is the odd situation. One of the reasons nobody from my world wants to get involved with it is that it just makes you look foolish from the point of view of a scientist.
Well,
because
they can't
everything
get involved unless they're working on a contract.
Well, this guy's
then they get a clearance.
There's an excuse for why real scientists can't get involved in this.
Sky is a big place, and
I disagree.
You said that you've
one of the top government scientists. I can't think of his name. You would know who it is. Gosh, he was a physicist, and Hal Puthoff knew him, and he had a lot of clearances into the Manhattan Project, the Post Manhattan Project.
Well, some guy I can't name said it's real, so it must be real.
A lot of other high technology projects throughout areas of the DoD, and so he
didn't let Weinstein talk for 2 minutes before he started giving excuses for why there's no evidence, why there's no real scientist involved, why there's no physicist involved in any of these programs that are supposedly studying technology so advanced we can't even understand it. I mean, this is just ridiculous. I'm so glad Jesse Michels did this. This UFO clown, Eric Davis, should be banished from UFO land. He's wasted enough people's time and enough people's money on total bull.
Academician, And he had clearances. A colleague of mine up at Baylor also has DOD clearance classifications, and he's working on classified stuff that you're not familiar with, you've never heard of. You won't get access to it. If you have a contract that requires a clearance, you will get access to something you don't know about.
And better bury you in bullshit, Eric Weinstein. You better stop him.
Okay, I understand that there's a lot of stuff that's classified. We have an entire system of national labs. There's no question about it. I'm talking about, like, at the level of ground truth. Right? Our two primary theories are the standard model and general relativity. Both of them are relevant here as limitations on what we can understand of the world we see. And if somebody has access to theories beyond those two, and they predicate manufacturing on it, and then we get the gifts of that manufacturing, just assuming that that story is correct.
I don't know his name.
We should be seeing some very weird stuff that is not explicable, as if Newton was looking at Lorentz contraction. He would say, what the heck is that?
He could be drunk if he was.
And
I don't know that he's drunk.
So I'm just going to begin with things that make me hugely uncomfortable. And again, it's not as a dig, or it's like I just can't figure this out. So we toss off these humanoid aliens, like aliens that are tetrapods, literally tetrapod body plans.
Yes.
We have arachnids, we have insects.
Tetrapods are like us, 2 legs, 2 arms. He's going to give a very solid argument here. If they're aliens and they all evolved on alien planets with different chemical makeups, different biological processes, different evolution, different organisms, why do they all look like us? 2 arms, 2 legs, a nose, eyes, a mouth.
We have cephalopods. We have all sorts of intelligent life that doesn't follow a tetrapod body plan.
Right.
The odd of a humanoid evolving through convergent evolution somewhere else of a humanoid is vanishingly small.
But it's not zero.
Yeah, but it's preposterous.
But Occam's razor wouldn't be that these beings would be from elsewhere. They would be that they'd be derivative of humans.
Or look, you can tell me some other story, like these things aren't even really the beings, that the real beings have constructed these things to interact with us, not to make us uncomfortable. Okay, I understand that.
Do you believe that?
That's possible.
Okay.
All right, but
Oh, he's going to concede a point. And back to the kick chat, we've got Yeti Orknot saying Suffolk kick check with 500 kicks. It's suffering a little less thanks to the kindness, generosity, and support of Yeti Orknot, who kindly and generously donated $5. And then we've got Winter Soldier for a penny and Censored Crabs for 500 kicks. We're up to $10.01 for tonight's kick take. Thank you all for your kindness, generosity, and support. You kick supporters, I get to keep most of that. I was excited about the kick money. It's all going away.
Any biologist hearing this story is just going to have the same reaction, like, tetrapods? This sounds like it came out of a Buck Rogers thing where you had to, it was too hard to hire an actor to behave as if they had a completely different body plan. So all aliens from the golden age of cinema or silent movies, whatever, were going to be tetrapods if they were playing an alien.
Same for Star Trek.
So that, first of all, really bugs me, is that I don't want to hear about.
You know what bugs me about Star Trek? They make aliens by just putting something on a human's head, like weird, something weird, ridges or whatever, different ears. They're aliens.
With no mention of, it is stunning that there are 2 eyes, a mouth, a head, and it walks the same way we do. I mean, even if you look at like a camel's legs, where we have a knee, it has an ankle, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first part.
It's life force drained by this energy vampire.
The next part is, I was very interested looking through some of your physics papers.
Yeah.
You seem to live in a world that I really honestly didn't know existed. So I learned something from that. It's sort of like national security physics.
National security physics.
Yeah, that's not like a real thing. But if I look at a lot of your papers, they're focused on bizarre, how would I put it? Bizarre physics that accepts the standard model in general relativity as ground truth, predicated on some sort of engineering desire.
No,
So
I'm
that-
just looking at per my book. I was looking at the physics of what's possible with anti-gravity, gravitational wave propulsion, or rockets.
Within what?
In other words,
Within what framework?
Say again?
Within
GR?
GR.
Yeah.
So GR with or without positivity constraints, or how are you?
Here's where it gets deeper into the
Let's
science.
slow it down. First of all, I don't
Rip 'em to
understand. If
shreds.
these things are here from out of town.
Rip 'em to
if
shreds,
they're not
Weinstein! Rip 'em!
co-resident with us here on Earth. They're not here using the standard model in general relativity, I don't think. I mean, it's not impossible.
Could be.
But I'm not doing UFO physics. I'm doing propulsion physics for interstellar flight. I'm not looking at this from a UFO perspective. I'm doing this as part of another.
So maybe
part
you
of
can
my
make
work.
this. So
Warp
you're
drives, wormholes, things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not doing
honest-
this because of UFOs. I'm just saying, hey, if this is valid to any degree, and we could expect maybe or pray maybe that in the future we can engineer these things, this could be how UFOs move, because we're trying to develop this physics for exploitation as a technology for future interstellar and interstellar missions.
So this is hugely important for me just to understand the context. If I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to push anything that isn't true.
It does sound a lot.
I think what you're saying is
Davis.
assume a proof of concept that something can voyage at an interstellar level with intention.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Assuming that one piece of information, attempt to figure out how that could be done as best you can with the tools we have.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's all
So
speculation.
then you and I completely polarize, I think, and again, I could be wrong on one issue. I would not be wasting my time. And again, that's judgmental. I would feel that I was wasting my time if I was trying to do this with GR, with general relativity.
Okay.
I might have an Alcubierre warp drive, but I'd think, how much energy do I need to warp space in this particular way?
The
Right?
whole energy of the sun.
Well, I could fall into a
It's
spinning
entire
black
life.
hole, and maybe I could try to figure out how this would be traversable and non-catastrophic. And I could imagine using all of the exotica of GR. Well, I'll bet everything on time dilation, and it'll be really expensive to go there and home, but I can still get there using Lorentz conversion factors. None of that has any appeal to me. Clearly, it's had a great appeal to you. It's just fine. We can polarize that. Surely, you don't think isn't it much more plausible that if craft were true, and we accept that as our premise, that it's basically proof that GR isn't the last world, that general relativity is a constricting framework, and that there's something beyond it that has general relativity as an effective theory.
I agree with that.
And they're using that.
I agree with that.
Okay. So that makes this mysterious, which is, why are you using GR?
Because that's the only tool I have that I know of from my graduate education and my research interest. And so I don't have the liberty to, I'm not a pure theoretical physicist. I'm more of like 1 foot theory, 1 foot applied.
Okay. So let's take that. If I had access to anything that seemingly was breaking GR, general relativity, I'd be dreaming about things related to general relativity, because we know that we don't like general relativity at a deep level. It's got a terrible variable in it, which is called the metric, where it's easy to fall into things that are not metrics from the space of metrics. It just doesn't behave well in terms of quantization. We know that we have got these two kinks in space-time called the initial singularity, which we associate with the Big Bang, and the Schwarzschild or black hole singularity that we associate with collapsed stars.
Yeah.
And I don't like GR. I mean, I love it from the point of view of Einstein having pulled it off, but it's 110 years past its sell-by date. And why are you not tweaking it?
I don't have intuition on how I could tweak it.
In other
Okay,
words,
so
And I
not
would
smart enough.
rather somebody smarter than me do that.
He just admitted he's
I
not
would like
smart
to have
enough.
somebody who tweaks it, and I could look at it and say, hey, it either does or does not predict a potential propulsion mode that could get us to where we want to go across interstellar distances without the consequence of G over C to the fourth.
So how do I interpret?
He's not convinced either. Yeah.
There are a lot of people who are interested in gravity.
Yeah.
And there are none of them on this program.
Say that again. Other people are interested
Well,
in gravity.
let me start from a different place. There's this 1971 Australian document that I became aware of, where the Australian intelligence officer, Harry, do you remember his last
Harry
name?
Turner, who was head of their nuclear division,
Starts writing down, here's what we surmise about our friends, the Yanks, and their efforts in this area.
Okay.
And he names, I don't know, 6 universities and the Institute for Advanced Study, MIT, Purdue, Indiana.
Yeah. Why is there no gravity experts working on these supposedly alien spacecraft that can warp space, time, and gravity?
I forget what the complete list is. And he names like Arnowit, Desser,
Oh, yeah.
Dyson, Oppenheimer. And it sounds like the Manhattan Project for gravity.
Okay.
And this is broadly consistent with this story that I've been, I think I first did it on Rogan in episode 1945, which they gave me the Trinity date. I love that. Which is that we have this bizarre thing called the golden age of general relativity, which makes absolutely no sense. And it's a story about 2 people, Agnew Bainson and Roger Babson, who appear to be in the language of the intelligent. Again, I'm not a guy who thinks he's seen a bunch of Jason Bourne movies so he can talk the lingo, but they appear to be what I've been told are cutouts. And they're both fitted with stories, it seems, about why they need to contribute to anti-gravity. And they find 2 physicists to work through, one named Bryce DeWitt. So Agnew Bainson and John Wheeler find Bryce DeWitt and set him up at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill at the Institute of Field Physics.
Right.
And then the other one, Roger Babson, out of New Boston, New Hampshire, seems to be somehow linked up with a guy named Lewis Witten, who's a gravitational physicist out of Johns Hopkins for his PhD, and found something that sounds like Bell Labs that nobody's ever heard of, called the Research Institute of Advanced Study, or RIAS. And it has Sheldon Glashow within it. It has Rudolf Kallman within it. It has Solomon Lefschetz, the topologist, comes out of retirement to work inside of the Martin. And we always talk about Lockheed, but we don't talk about Glenn L. Martin that became Martin Marietta that became Lockheed Martin. So it's the Martin that really matters. And to me,
correct.
And
you and I talked about that years past.
Yeah.
I've read the documents or the websites you sent to me, and I'm already familiar with elements of that.
Okay.
I've got old newspaper clips.
All right. So we've got A-team talent. We've got Sheldon Glashow, Rudolf Kallman, Solomon Lefschetz, Desser, Arnowit, Dyson. This begins to feel like, the boys are back in town.
Yeah, this is physics firepower.
Yeah, right. And then the trail just seems to go cold in the beginning of the 1970s.
Correct.
So,
and I could never reconcile that. I noticed that back in graduate school during the 80s. And I went to an APS meeting. That's the American Physical Society. So I went to an APS meeting with my dissertation supervisor, and I ran into, they have like a booth for the APS, all the books they sell.
I put Tales of the Sonic Voyage in the live chat.
Physics Today magazine. Well, that was published by somebody else, actually. But they have all that for members, for membership services and benefits. And so they've got this advertising.
Tales of the Sonic Voyage, longtime show supporter here, music contributor here sometimes, needs like 60 or less than, 60 something subscribers to get monetized. And for anybody that's ever had to do that slog and do the grind to try to get to 1,000 subscribers and get monetized on YouTube, it is It is a shit show. It is very, very difficult. So I have pinned in the live chat his YouTube channel. Please go over there and subscribe and support good content creators. I would appreciate it. We have helped something like 7 or 8 people get to the magic numbers here. Usually when they get pretty close, like needing 50 or less subscribers, I just pump their channel every chance I get and get them over the hump. Happy to pay it forward. Now, I will say, when I was doing that grind, nobody helped me. I had to grind and grind and grind and grind and work for free for, I think it was 1.5 years or 2 years in order to get monetized here. So anytime I can help somebody a little bit, make their journey a little bit easier, help them over that last bit of hurdle, I'm happy to do that, paying it forward to a lot of the other people who have supported me. So please go over there and subscribe to his channel. Let's continue.
Booth in the commercials exhibit part of the conference, and they had the APS historian. And I brought that up with the historian, like, what, 1984?
Yes.
And Bob Forward was still at the Hughes Research Labs in Malibu. Yeah. He's the one that motivated me to ask that question, because he had been looking at anti-gravity when he was at Hughes.
Well,
and this is before he got his general relativity under Joseph Weber at University of Maryland in the late 50s. And the APS historian had no answer for me as to where this disconnect between what happened to anti-gravity research, what happened to this golden age of GR. He said something to the effect of similar what you said. It disappeared in the 70s, but he never saw what happened. All of a sudden, roughly the early 80s, now we have superstring theory coming up.
No, there's an interregnum. So we have this golden age of general relativity.
5 miles to the studio.
Things culminate in the standard model 73, 74 in particle theory. There is a period where there are 2 great ideas in physics, supersymmetry and grand unification, which dominate during the 70s. Then there's a pre-string-like craze for something called n=8 supergravity. And n=8 supergravity was the candidate theory. It's too unique to be wrong, theory of everything. And then right up until 1984, where we get the Green-Schwarz anomaly cancellation directs the entire field to put its energies on one bet.
Yes, string theory, which I think is a stretch, but I'm no physicist or scientist.
And this is where the phrase "the only game in town," which
I remember that.
Togit, T-O-G-I-T, the only game in town. And Togit takes over physics, where if you say anything that isn't string during this period right after 1984, it's a bloodbath. And basically, Feynman is upset about it. Glasgow is upset about it. Weinberg basically pleads no contest and says, I'm voting with my feet. I'm going to go do this cosmology in Texas. And years later, we get this very weird meeting about AI, not related to physics, between Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz. And they're sat down and told, do not invest in AI startups. AI startups are not going to be allowed to be a thing. We're going to have 2 or 3 AI companies, and we're going to cocoon them as part of the federal government. And Andreessen and Horowitz are sitting there, and Horowitz says, well, I think they say, well, how are you going to restrict this? You can't do it at the technology level because it's just math and you can't classify math.
Yeah.
So Ben basically said, look, it doesn't make sense because to regulate AI at the technology level, you're regulating math. And of course, we're not going to do that. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And you'll recall that what they said was, no, actually,
we can classify math.
We can classify math. And literally, this is verbatim. We classified whole entire areas of physics in the nuclear era and made them state secrets, like of the like theoretical
physics,
sciences, physics.
Math.
Okay. Now, quantum gravity.
How do you do that?
If you look and you do a Google Ngram search, there's basically no hits on quantum gravity until around 1972. And it comes out of nowhere. And we're bedded with a story where I can get almost any physicist of today to repeat the phrase that quantum gravity is the holy grail of theoretical physics.
That's right.
It's a fictitious history.
I remember that's when Fulling, Davies, Ford, and that group started publishing their papers on semi-classical quantum gravity.
Well, but my point is, the physicists do not know their own history, just the way most academicians believe that peer review goes back to the founding of the Royal Society. And it's very clear that it comes from about 1965 to 1975.
Okay.
So what we've done is we've erased institutional memory of the physicist's origin story from the physics community. And this issue of quantum gravity looks like a cock-blocking mechanism, that it basically binds to the receptor of a physicist's mind, and it causes them not to make progress. And so we're 42 years into an unquestionable, feels like a mass psychosis.
Yeah, we've had all these different approaches that never work to quantize gravity.
Right. So you have what appears to be a mass delusion. Not that it wouldn't be a good theory. I believe that gravity has to be harmonized with the quantum. I'm not disputing the quantum.
Yeah, there's no question.
But the idea that Einstein must be beaten, taken to the ground, and forced to submit to the quantum has not been productive.
Correct.
And
I agree.
Okay. But after 42 years of failure, you would imagine we would hold at least 1, 2, or 10 conferences saying, what do we have wrong? Why are we not trying to make progress?
And you don't see that.
Well, that's the mirror to your thing that there are no physicists on the program. In other words, this is an effect that is so dumb.
It is stupid.
It is so pathologically stupid, so unfathomably wasteful.
I still want to.
Why would you not question your own lack of progress? You know, in fact, Leonard Susskind, one of the fathers of modern string theory, was on a show of a sister podcast, Kurt Jaimungal's Theories of Everything. And or maybe it was with Lawrence Krauss, and he says, we have to go back to the beginning. We have to question absolutely. We got this wrong. If we don't go back to the foundations, I'm just thinking like, finally, it's breaking. He says, the foundations, and he says, of string theory. I said, oh, string theory has failed. So what we need to do is not question the string assumption, but we have to go back to the foundations of string theory and fix string theory. I mean, it's an infinite sequence. So one of the questions that I have is physics just, are we not getting the obvious? Somebody figured out that physics is just too dangerous to do in a university setting.
It seems that way to me. It seems that way.
This is kind of going off the rails.
Because you see, now we're a joke.
That's right.
But in 79, 77, you had these two Streisand effect problems. You had a guy named John Aristotle Phillips, who was a junior at Princeton, who chose Freeman Dyson for his advisor for his junior thesis. And he said, look, I'm the Princeton mascot. I'm not really very good at physics. Can we use the fact that I'm not really good at physics to do something novel? And Dyson said, like what? He said, well, I want to design an atomic weapon, and I want you to tell me whether my design would work using my limited understanding of physics. And Dyson said, as long as I give you no information, I simply tell you whether it would work or not, you do it all 100%, you're on. So he submitted his junior thesis. Dyson took one look at it and said, yeah, this will work. They removed page 20, and I believe it is not found in the Princeton library with all of the other junior theses.
Oh, really?
Show people how
you never heard this story?
I've not heard that story before. That's news.
Okay. Well,
that's very interesting. Very, very telling.
John Aristotle Phillips is the guy who is at the center of that. There's another guy named Howard Moreland who worked for the Progressive magazine. And he had the assignment to see if you can figure out, with no knowledge of physics, the Teller-Ulam design for the hydrogen bomb.
When is somebody going to set this in the band?
He did it.
Yes.
And he did it because all of the information had been sharded and discarded and declassified. he basically put the pieces of the broken coffee cup back together by being meticulous. So it was an archaeology and reassembly. It was a reverse engineering program from the shredder of theoretical physics.
Yeah, I agree with that. That sounds like it. Yeah.
Okay, well, that violates restricted data, which is this bizarre doctrine that comes from the 54 and 46 Atomic Energy Acts. And the government wanted to use prior injunction against him because he had no right to free speech in this area.
He had no evidence for
I think what they found was we can't stop him because we declassified all the information he used. So that gave the government a huge problem, which is that it was creating a Streisand effect and calling attention to the fact that there are no nuclear secrets. I mean, there are probably many, but the core ideas are not the gating function.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Shortly after that, we get string theory and we become kind of incapable, right? It's like the glass bead game or something that amuses people at a very high level. Like we're turning the best physicists into chess players because nobody ever blew something up with a rook, right? And
this is a long
I guess my question to you is,
years
are these two sides of the same coin, that we don't make progress beyond the standard model and general relativity, and we don't have any physicists on the UFO UAP claimed crash retrieval program?
I've always thought that the answer is yes to that question.
Do you have any interaction with the Jasons?
No, never.
You know who they are?
They change. They're not always the same group. No, I've never met any of them. I know who, at the time I knew who was in the Jasons, I didn't know any of the people on the committee.
Do you want to describe what they're supposed to do?
His own theory.
They're supposed to solve problems that the DoD gives to them.
And it's supposed to be comprised of high-level physicists, mathematicians, and the like.
Yeah, engineers too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's specific government problems. Problems they need a solution for, so they give a contract to the Jasons to study a particular thread of problems over summer. These are academicians, so they're off from school for the summer, and they devote their time and energy to solving this problem, produce a report, turn it in, they collect the money.
I didn't know any of the Jasons work on the UFO program.
One of the things that I think is really interesting is that there are a tiny number of people at a very high level in the foundations of theoretical physics.
Correct.
And I think most people don't understand what some of these people are. If I show you a violinist who's a soloist,
like bogus, yes.
There's no possibility you can convince yourself that guy knows nothing or that anybody could do that, right? Like you see something that's so astounding, only a tiny few can do it. I believe that the same thing is true about theoretical physics and pure mathematics, that once you're in the game, you realize what a tiny number of people are at the highest level in this game. And it's just very vertical and there's no mercy.
Oh, that's true.
Okay.
So I've known that all the way since I was in middle school. I read enough of physics literature when I was a kid. I realized that.
So here's my question. If I look at those people, they're so few in number, I could track all of them. And you pretty much know, not exactly, but by their PhD, you have a 75% chance that you've identified deep talent.
Yeah.
So, one of the things I've said to Jesse is if you wanted to figure out that the NSA was there while it was still no such agency, you'd look at number theory PhDs and you'd ask, what zip codes do number theory PhDs live in when they don't get an academic job that's visible? And you find that they're clustered around Fort Meade.
Yeah.
Okay, do the same thing for this. Imagine that what you need general relativity, the differential geometry that goes underneath it. So let's call that Riemannian geometry. The standard model, the differential geometry that goes underneath that, we'll call Arrhenian geometry. And what modern geometric field theory, TQFT's conformal field theories on up. Shouldn't we be able to figure out if there is a program that's actually working on this, where it's located by virtue of the fact that there's almost nobody in this game and we can track their physical movements? In other words, we would have figured out that there was an awful lot of physics firepower at a boys' school in New Mexico.
That's very interesting. So like a little detective search.
I mean, my point is that this is the bottleneck. And in the current vogue
Should be able to
of
figure out
saying,
who's
you know,
working on this so-called top secret program, but we can't, and we never get to the people that supposedly work there.
the lone genius theory is
But of course, Weinstein is assuming, and I think correctly, that they would have theoretical physicists and they would have, you know, certain type of people working on something like a crashed alien spaceship with advanced propulsion we can't figure out. And Eric Davis has said there is no physicist working on it.
wrong. Then that wouldn't work. But the lone genius theory is clearly right. I mean, it's just obviously right. It's a psyop to say it isn't. So my claim is I know a great deal of those people, like personally.
Okay.
I see no indication that they know about any such program. And the only exception I can find is that there's one black hole that you go into and you don't come out of called Renaissance Technologies that hires in these exact specialties. It's got a level of profitability that doesn't really make sense based on what I know about markets. And it's got a secure campus. It's right next to Brookhaven National Laboratory, and it has the resources of SUNY Stony Brook. And SUNY Stony Brook has a math and a physics presence that is far above a State University of New York campus, even as a flagship.
I wasn't aware of that. That's in Long Island, correct?
Correct. I mean, I think most people didn't realize.
Yeah, they get guys that run warehouses to work on the alien spaceships.
Was the world's greatest living theoretical physicist until very recently. I mean, he was like 104, but that's where he was. He was at the State University of New York at Stony Brook.
I didn't know that. Wow.
So my
question
is, can we figure out whether or not there's a grown-up effort? Because I don't think it's really easily possible to reverse engineer these things when your science is lagging. Like GR is the problem. The standard model is the problem.
I agree with that. Absolutely.
And yet your papers.
Well, my papers are separate from that. That's the whole point. It has nothing to do with UFOs. It has to do with propulsion physics program. I'm just contributing my knowledge.
Those designs aren't going to work.
Those designs aren't going to work.
I didn't know that then, but I'm at a point where I know that it's difficult. Well, it's going to be beyond difficult to engineer warp drives and wormholes.
Well, this is what
regardless
I'm very glad we're having this
configuration.
I took one look at this stuff and I just said, why is he wasting his time?
It's interest me. It's what I love. And I haven't been able to figure out any way to jump off that track and get on a track to an alternative version that could lead to something as revolutionary as trans-medium propulsion that UAP demonstrates.
Papers have nothing to do with real science. He's admitting it here.
So at a bare minimum, we would say GR and the standard model, but I already know that even at the bare minimum, that's probably not even touching the truth.
Right.
I think what's happening is I think the UAP craft are manipulating the information domain, because I think that there's a subquantum domain of information. People talk about Shannon. I'm talking about Fisher information that Roy Frieden at the University of Arizona did a lot of research for 25 years on, published 2 books through Cambridge University Press on Fisher information, was able to use that to derive all of the major theories and principles of physics, including the Wheeler-DeWitt equation, from that being observed and the observer. So it's all based on the observer, which is quite a quantum statement. So I'd have to dig it up out of my phone to be able to read to you the 2 key terms of Fisher information.
Sounds like excuses.
From which physics derives. New Scientist did an article on it, which was just brilliant. It was in the
I'm not following exactly.
late 60s, but
I can't. I'm one of the smartest people on planet Earth, and I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, you wackadoo.
Late 90s, sorry.
So look, right now there's a vogue for if physics doesn't work, we can talk about quantum information and information theory, because computers have money, and so it's a way for us to try to get money from people who know computers by making physics like information is the basic layer of the world. So I've watched that push for a change of variables, just like let's make black holes the new harmonic oscillator, the test object that we push everything onto. I really don't find that highly compelling. Like we basically have quarks,
I don't think Eric Weinstein is impressed with Eric Davis at all.
leptons, force particles, Higgs.
You ever see two big science nerds have a conversation like this? It's like one nerd always comes out the dominant nerd. I think we know who that is in this conversation.
We have this arena called space-time. It's all a model. The model is extremely good, but we don't live there. We don't live in space-time.
Yes.
No, I know that.
Okay.
It's not lines, curves, points, and manifolds. It's a physical space.
Yeah. No, but it may be a manifold. I'm not saying that it isn't. I'm saying that because of the defects in these theories, that you're looking at an effective theory and you're trying to figure out what the parent theory is.
Fans here
Do you have any guesses about that?
That goes back to some ruminations I've had based on quantum entanglement networks. People in Quantum Magazine have talked about the work they were doing on quantum entanglements and tensor networks, where they were able to show in a model how the Big Bang is actually a unfolding or an emerging of spin elementary particles and the interaction forces from entanglement networks. And I just don't know how long that how far that has gotten as a theoretical development. But I know that the initial stage of work that was done in the mid-2010s was pretty promising. I just haven't found any publications to show or inform me on where they've gotten with it.
I don't know anything about it.
Let's talk about getting a craft across interstellar distances.
All right, one moment. All right, so we're an hour and a half in. Let me know in the live chat. Put the number 2 if you think I should do a part 2, and just put no in all capital letters if we're done covering this. If you think we should do a part 2 and go deeper into the interview, it gets a little more interesting after this. Weinstein starts pressing him. How do you get here from there? Which is a big argument. People are claiming alien spaceships are visiting us, but nobody can tell us exactly how they're getting here. Everybody's got speculation and theories, but no evidence for how they're getting here. Arlene wants to see again. Let's Magus says 1.5. Miss Phallus Cooper wants to see us do it again. Echo wants to see part 2. Chad Wellington says 2. Pooh. Stormcrow wants to see a part 2. Tales of the Sonic Voyage wants to see a part 2. Heavy Kev says deeper. That's what she says. Ha ha. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll probably do a part 2, but I've been here for 3 hours and a half and haven't had a bathroom break. Somebody told me you better get really good at holding your bladder. And I said, what? I didn't know what that meant. Now I do. Ha ha. Now I do. All right. So here's my takeaway so far. Eric Davis was asked to provide his baseline of truth, and all he did was regurgitate UFO mythology, because that's all he has. He has no evidence. Yeah, Grady worked for the government. Yeah, Grady even worked for the government investigating UFOs, but he also investigated poltergeists and werewolves and bulletproof wolves and smoking dog men. Let's see, dino beavers and evil demon spirits that followed him home from a spooky ranch. He claims that he was possessed by an evil demon that spoke through him and that he had witnesses to that event. He claims a lot of things. I think that he is grossly outmatched here with a real scientist. But I'm still thankful for this exchange, because you almost never see one of these UFO science wackadoos, and that's what they are. Let's be clear. People like Travis Taylor, who happen to have a science degree, or this guy who happen to be, it's not impressive to me when all they do is regurgitate UFO stories. It's great if you're interested in UFOs. You also have a science degree. Maybe you can apply some speculation. But if all you've got is speculation and hoaxes, I think that anybody that was in the Eric Davis believer camp is rapidly jumping off of that boat after this interview. because we're going to see, I suppose, when or if we do a part 2, we're going to see Weinstein kind of takes him apart with all of his fake theoretical wormholes and shit like that, because there's a big problem with this. Is it theoretically possible to bend space-time and create a wormhole that you can traverse space and time through? Yes. But the amount of energy that it takes is almost incalculable. It's so much energy. And Weinstein, in the next later part of this discussion, sort of rips him to shreds. So we're going to do a part 2 and see that as well. Does Jesse hate Davis? Something seems off here. No, he's a big fan of Eric Davis. He licks his asshole every chance he gets. He's done shows and talked about the Wilson Davis hoax and other hoaxes. Of course, Jesse Michels has platformed and promoted and profited, more importantly, profited from an awful lot of UFO hoaxes. Most recently, the Charles Hall hoax. Charles Hall claimed that he met aliens when he was in the Air Force. Just one problem, he was never in the Air Force, and we proved that. And of course, Jesse Michels is promoting the Nazca mummies hoax, where dead babies were ripped apart, glued back together, look like aliens, dead people too. They desecrated graves, dug up dead people, ripped apart their bones and their flesh and glued them back together and plastered them up to look like aliens, totally desecrating human remains, including dead babies. Jesse was right there to get his money for that. Jesse is basically a scumbag. Or, if I'm being as kind as possible and as fair as possible to Jesse Michels, maybe Jesse Michels just got too far down the rabbit hole. And listen, I've been there myself. After years of consuming this information, you start to think that it's true because so many people are saying the same thing, until you start analyzing and peeling back the layers of deception and realizing they're all using each other for sources. And, some of Stephen Greenstreet's reporting is that it's all the same small group of UFO evangelists, promoters, true believers, whatever you want to call them. And in the beginning of this interview, Eric Davis basically confirmed that, because he name dropped all of the other wackadoos that he's getting his information from, as if that's proof, right? Yes, Wojcik, for once a goal has been hit, right? Jesse is all about the clicks. Well, God bless him. I sure need some money. I could use some clicks, but I'm not going to start selling completely and totally fake stories to get there. I always consider that we're running a marathon here, not it's not a sprint to get to some finish line. And we consider what we do here a public service. We are a public benefit. Jesse Michels is a public detriment, because he pumps YouTube and the podcast sphere. He pumps the world, really. He pumps disinformation, misinformation, and totally fake stories into the discussion that really have no place here. If they're totally fake stories, and we can prove many of the stories he's promoted and especially profited from have been completely fake stories, then what Jesse Michels does has no value to society. None, except, I guess, to entertain retarded people who believe the fake stories that he's pushing are real. And if you're one of those retarded people, I'm sorry, but you really need to start doing your own research, learning discernment, learning to fact check people. Tonight, you saw a perfect example. One of these guys talks, you have to stop them and say, whoa, wait a minute. What are you talking about? The Holloman Air Force alien landing. Well, we got to fact check you on that. And we showed you that's a completely and totally fake story based on an airplane, a film somebody made of an airplane, and most likely an F-4 Phantom with a light on the front of it coming in for a landing. And once that footage was cleaned up with a digital remaster, we were able to make out the wings of that airplane. But for 10, 20 years, everybody showed that video and said that's proof that aliens landed at Holloman Air Force Base. No, it's not. It's proof an airplane landed. And Jesse Michels just let his guest spew complete and total fakery, fraud, and bull into YouTube. So congratulations, Jesse Michels. And I'm sure I'll be attacked. Oh, you're just jealous of him because he makes more money than me. He's always made more money than me. The guy worked for Thiel Capital, right? And most of me thinks that Jesse Michels is like a spoiled rich kid whose daddy paid for his college, probably got him his first couple of jobs, right? who's just a bored rich kid. A lot of bored rich kids get into UFOs. They don't have anything else going on. They don't really need to work for a living, and they fall into this. But the fact that Jesse Michels just let Eric Davis literally repeat provably hoaxed stories, fake MJ-12 documents, fake Aquarius documents, fake Holloman Air Force Base landing, fake Jimmy Carter story, fake Wilson Davis memos, provably fake. All those things that Eric Davis talked about are provably, verifiably fake, with facts and evidence to back up why they're fake. But Jesse didn't do 5 minutes of research. He just let his guests spew a bunch of bullshit. And that's what Jesse does. He's a bullshit. He's a clickbait merchant. That's what he does. And he'll let anybody, I believe he'll let anybody say anything, no matter how ridiculous. My favorite of the ridiculous stories on Jesse Michels' show, it's called American Bullshit Alchemy, was Charles Hall. Charles Hall was a fake Air Force veteran whose whole story begins with, when I was in the Air Force. He was just on Jesse Michels' show, and he said that he saw 4 aliens and they transformed into a horse that could float, and it flew away, floating off the ground. These 4 aliens transformed into a glowing white horse, and then it flew away at 100 miles an hour, floating above the ground. I mean, the level of stupidity that Jesse Michels will allow guests to spew is just ridiculous. He's an intellectual weakling and a coward, too, who won't debate me or somebody else that actually has a working historical knowledge of the fake stories that he promotes. He didn't even, there was something in this interview. I'm sorry, I'll remember in a moment. Pardon me, I'm still a little neurologically foggy after my surgeries. There was some basic UFO mythology that he wasn't even aware of some of these stories, right? So he has not studied the history. He doesn't know the history of fakery, fraud, and hoaxing. And if you want to know what's real and what's fake, you have to study and determine what is fake. None of these guys do that. They're just like, tell me an alien story, and they get their disclosure boners going, and they jay off each other. This is one big circle jerk. That's what they do. You really need to study the history of there is such an incredible history of fakery, fraud, fake documents, fake UFO videos, faked claimed alien spacecraft that turn out to be flares, turn out to be balloons, turn out to be drones. And there is a great deal of deception that is used by these UFO and alien promoters because there's so much money to be made here. If you're going to tell people UFO, what I call UFO bedtime stories, right? If you like UFOs and aliens, you get your that's right, you get your disclosure boner going, listening to these stories. You have to you have to divorce yourself from any critical thinking to believe this stuff. And again, 80 years. We don't have a single piece of verifiable scientific evidence of alien visitation on Earth, of alien spaceships on Earth, of alien bodies, of alien tissue samples, of aliens alive or dead or autopsied. We have no verifiable proof of any of that. But we do have verifiable proof that all of that has been faked, hoaxed, and promoted and profited from for money. People have verifiably profited from verifiably 100% fake alien and UFO stories for money. We can prove that. So what does that tell you? If we examine the data, we know that there is a great deal of fakery, fraud, and hoaxes. Eric Davis just used a bunch of hoaxes as his so-called baseline for UFO truth. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yes, you have to use your super-duper prover maneuver to get a disclosure boner. Yes. Just advanced technology, says Patty Wilhelm. Yes. So we've done our due diligence. I'm going to bounce on out of here before I have an accident here. What are we at? 3 hours, 40 minutes, no break. I'm getting my stamina back, which is good news. I want to thank Spooky for the excellent thumbnail. I made Spooky, by the way. It's my call. I made Spooky put the tinfoil hat on Jesse Michels because every time I hear Jesse Michels or see Jesse Michels, that's how I envision him. A guy with a tinfoil hat conspiracy peddler, garbage peddler. That's what Jesse Michels is. That's always what he's going to be. But though I do wish a road to redemption, maybe after a few more years of spinning his wheels and never getting anywhere, Jesse Michels will start looking into the skeptical side of things and realize that he has spent years of his life promoting total garbage. I wish a road to redemption for all people. I really do. So I'm going to bounce on out of here. I will be back tomorrow. Follow me on X. It's at Stephen Cambion, or Facebook at Stephen Cambion. We always post the shows a few hours early. We're going to try to see if we can fit in a part 2 here this week. But I did have another show planned for tomorrow night, but I don't know. I got to juggle some things around. I wasn't planning on doing a part 2, but if you guys want to see a part 2, let me know in the comments. Should we go further through this? Maybe Eric Davis will mention more hoaxes that we can just Google in 5 seconds and show you our hoaxes and fake stories. I'd kind of like that, actually. I haven't gotten much further than this into my initial listen to this. So I will be back tomorrow sometime. Also, be sure to join our Discord server. If you like speaking with like-minded people and fellow truth seekers from around the world, join the Truth Seekers Discord. We have many, many different sections. There's a lot of debunks of fake nonsense in all those different sections. A lot of my research is some of those sections. You are most welcome. And if you're listening in audio podcast land, we love and appreciate you. But please go on over to YouTube, put Truth Seekers, one word, in the search bar. Look for me, the strange guy with sunglasses. Go there, smash the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Big boost to our channel. When you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell, it is a big boost to our channel. Costs nothing and really does benefit us. So if you like what you're seeing here and you're tired of thinking you know the truth, because these people all put themselves out there, I'm telling the truth about those aliens, then why are you using provably fake stories to give us that so-called truth? It's ridiculous, it's childish, it's stupid. And I, for one, am tired of these garbage peddlers, and that's why I dedicate a lot of time every week to sort of peeling back the layers of deception to show you that these stories are very deceptively put together. You notice how many times Eric Davis cited a dead person as telling him something. Well, isn't that interesting and convenient that I can't fact check you by calling up a dead person? They all do this. So I'm going to get off my soapbox now. We want to thank you all for the tremendous support tonight. We hit a goal for once, and we want to thank everybody for the Kick support. Much, much appreciated. Wherever you're supporting us, you can support us on PayPal, buy me a coffee, become a channel member, become a Patreon supporter, send a super chat, whatever you do or however you choose to support us. We recognize and thank every person, read every super chat, and thank every person we can for the support. I'm going to play us out just letting you know, even if you're listening to a replay or the audio podcast, you can always look in the description and find out how to throw a few bucks in our hat and keep us honest. So that's all I got for you, friends. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.
Truth Seekers is a viewer-supported show. Wonderful people like you who enjoy this show send pledges in the form of super chats, super stickers, super thanks, PayPal, or Cash App. Instructions for how to help are in the description. You can also join our Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month you can get extra content. Patreon supporters get a backstage pass, early access to all our production videos before they are distributed publicly, Stephen Cambion's music, private writings, a monthly show journal, and more. You can also become a YouTube channel member for $5 a month. A YouTube membership includes all of the Patreon benefits, plus a special members badge, priority reply to video comments, and the live chat, plus a monthly members-only video. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, for supporting Truth Seekers. Thank you for your generosity and support. Thanks for being here. This is Truth Seekers with your host, Stephen Campion. Please rate, like and comment on our videos or podcasts. If you are listening to an audio podcast, please rate us 5 stars to help us rise in the search rankings. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to an audio podcast, we love and appreciate you listeners, but you are missing the live tapings. All our shows are recorded live with video feed. We'd love you to come be a part of our live broadcasts and tapings for the podcast. Head on over to YouTube, click the search tool, the little magnifying glass, put Truth Seekers, one word in the search bar, and hit enter. You'll see a strange and mysterious guy with sunglasses. That means you found the channel. Go there, smash the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to receive up-to-date info on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to be a part of our live taping and our chat room during the live broadcasts. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. This is Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers.
Truth Seekers, exposing the truth. Truth Seekers, coming for you. Truth Seekers, exposing the lies. Truth Seekers, open your eyes. They lie again. Have you had your fill? Let go of lies. Take your second red pill. I know you've had your fill. It's time to take your second red pill. I know you've had your fill. It's time to take your second red pill. I know you've had your fill. It's time to take your second red pill. Truth Seekers, exposing the truth. Truth Seekers, coming for you. Truth Seekers, exposing the lies. Truth Seekers, open your eyes. Take your second red pill. Truth Seekers, exposing the truth. Truth Seekers, coming for you. Truth Seekers, exposing the lies. Truth Seekers, open your eyes.